Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down from 11 till 2 p.m., which I believe I will see Spence Checketts in the house here, as well as we are on remote Road Home Family Center, 529 West, 7020 South in Midvale. Come on down. Lots of people putting their arms, their hands, their legs where their mouths are and giving back to the less fortunate. A fantastic event we have going on. I'm looking at it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What is that, 13? 13 different tables and booths of different radio stations all coming together for one cause. And it is my pleasure to do it again here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down. ESPN 792.1 FM. We will have people from the various sort of, different walks of life. You got car dealerships. You got the people doing for the charity specifically. You got these, radio stations, Broadway media, everybody coming together all to give back during a very important time of the year. It's cold. It's holiday times. It's tough on a lot of people, and it's great to see a lot of people that I would guess consider themselves fortunate to be able to give back, and I'm happy to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form. Again, we will have people coming around letting you know how you can give back. Come on down, even if it's just a pair of shoes or if you have a sweatshirt that you're replacing, whatever it is, it will go to somebody that definitely needs it. So we encourage you to do that. Again, I will be here until about 2 p.m. Spence Checketts takes over. He'll take you to 6 p.m. I will have the pleasure of being joined by the one, the only Gordy Chiesa. He will join me bottom of the hour, and he's going to be here for an hour. So I'm going to let him give a little story about himself, just how he got to where he's at, how he got into coaching, all that good stuff. So we have a bunch of great guests. I believe Lincoln Kennedy, one of the pillars of the offensive line for the Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders, back when they made the Super Bowl. Always loved talking with him. We'll have a conversation with him. We have a whole bunch of stuff to get into. But as always, and my right-hand man, my guy, back in the studios on the ones and twos, our brave program director / sometimes producer when Zach slacks off and goes to lovely old Santa Barbara, warm Santa Barbara, while we're here in the cold Utah. We always do a Utah beginning because we are the only home that the Utah Utes have ever known. So we bring you Utah Utes content, and I guess my question to start the day, as I try to keep up with all of the Utah Utes, both going into the portal, coming out of the portal, a couple of big names have left, to be expected. One guy was, I wouldn't call it shameless. Let's just say that he was very honest with his departure and now landed with arguably, well, not this year because they didn't even make the 12-team playoff, but most people would consider it, the number one program when it comes to college football, at least in the time that Saban was there. Now, maybe that will change over time. Who knows? But then you also have guys that are possibly coming back, maybe your best wide receiver, guys that are coming in. But that's all micro, James. And you know me. I like to go micro, macro. I weave in and out like a three-man weave in basketball drills that I used to participate in. I'm going to go macro on this. And I guess what I want to know as I wrap up my 2 weeks here in gorgeous Utah before I head back to old Northern California, which, by the way, James, I dodged a bullet weather-wise. We had snow one day here, which I was thrilled about. Citizens of Salt Lake City, Utah, maybe not quite as excited as me, as you guys get it a lot more. I saw it and I was thrilled, but apparently it's been storming, absolutely storming in Northern California, which may make its way down here to Utah at some point, maybe when I'm on my flight. Hopefully not during the duration of my flight.
So what you're saying is you came here and it was a lot milder other than the one snow day, and now when you go back, it'll be milder in Berkeley, where in your hometown there,
Exactly.
and it'll be quite the stormy situation here. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
you're gonna do a little switcheroo. It all depends. You are in control of this. Is that what's going on, Zakariah?
What I'm trying to tell you and our fearless leader, our president Steve, is that perhaps I bring the luck.
Okay.
Perhaps you want to keep me around. You know what I mean? Anyway,
that's a good spin on it. That's a good spin job by you.
Hey, Fox News, CNN. I'm a big spin guy, James. But anyways, I'm gonna go macro on this, and what I want to know is, Utah fans, do you keep up with all the Utah transfer news? Now, obviously, we're coming off a really rough year, and if this year had been different, and we were, I got to stop saying we. And the Utes were in a bowl game this year, perhaps you'd be paying a little bit more attention to everything that's going on. But just in general, do you check your Google? Do you have Google alerts set? I know certain celebrities, anytime their name pops up, they get an alarm on their phone that their name is in the news. And I know, I even know broadcasters and athletes and coaches and all that stuff. So I've never done that. I've never been big enough to have to do that, James. But as a Ute fan, are you keeping up with everybody that's coming in and going? Or is it sort of like wake me up when the rosters are set? Like, let's talk late summer, early fall, that sort of deal.
Probably one of the biggest plays of the game was the interception by Blackman on the 1-yard line that was forced by Franklin.
On 2nd and 10, Nix to the end zone. Touchdown. It's Troutman.
For 315 yards.
Casual fan, you have somewhere between there. But are you paying attention to every headline of guys that are coming in and going out? I know that I am, but again, I don't know if that's me being myopic, James, because we do sports broadcasting for a living. So for the casual fan, that's the poll. And you can vote at ESPN 700. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I haven't had a chance to gather myself with trying to book guests and having people come in. And, the more important thing here is giving back. So we're putting the emphasis on that. I haven't had a chance to get to all of my social media. I have gone on Instagram Live, which you can check me out at 11ZAK11, 11Zach11, because I think we're doing YouTube, James, but not the camera work that we're used to because I am on remote. So you can check all that out, but you can vote on the poll. It's very simple. Do you keep up with all the Utah transfer news? 1, yes, got to stay informed. 2, no, let me know when the roster's set. So vote on that. ESPN 700 is the station's account. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I will retweet that in the commercial break. And then we'll have the one, the only Gordy joining us for an hour in person, which I got to meet him at the Jazz Suns game last Friday. Went to the Utah Hockey Club Canucks game last night. I will talk about that later in the program as well. But again, that is the opening segment. Because I'm curious. Is it just, James, me and you paying attention to every move that goes left and right? Obviously, current players probably are. The coaching staff is. The organization is. Voice of the Utes, Bill Riley is. We understand that. Scott Mitchell probably is. But is the casual fan paying attention to every person coming in and out of the transfer portal, or do they just want to be let known what the roster's looking like when it comes closer to the kickoff for the actual season? So again, vote on that at ESPN 700 at Zach Sports, and that'll be part of the opening segment, which of the Sean O'Connell Show was always brought to you by Alvy Armani. If you are having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, maybe it's just thinning more than you'd like, let Alvy Armani help you out. Find them online at alvyarmani.com and tell them ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM sent you. And I will try to get the credentials to log into the text line. The Dish Pros text line is always 877-353-0700. And if James is feeling like in a holiday mood, maybe he'll take your phone calls as well. 877-353-0700. And again, today don't necessarily have the video on YouTube, but you can still listen to me there. Just keep your phone open while you're working or driving around or whatever. At ESPN 700 Sports Utah is where you can check us out on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. So, what did you make of the big names? I'll tell you this. And James, as you've gotten to know me over these past 4 months in totality, 2 weeks in, I would say, intimacy. I mean, not intimate like that, James. You know what I'm saying? But me being live in front of your face and all that, and working with me directly.
Yeah, let's be careful with the phrasing, Zachary. Okay, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, it has been working a lot more closely with you. It's
yes.
definitely, yeah, it's definitely. I've enjoyed having you in person, man. The communication's definitely better in person, so that helps, and it's been fun having you here.
Yeah, rather than me scrambling around trying to get my my thing hooked up, my Rotocaster from home, even though we're doing that now. But yes, you're right. Closely was a much better word than intimately. But my point remains, James, I think the people know by now.
Oh, yeah, they do.
You're a married man. Anyways, the point is, I think that you would describe me as a more glass half full than glass half empty guy. Yes, I tend
absolutely much more positive.
So rather than look at Cameron Calhoun,
points of positivity is your thing.
Positivity, yes. And even when we when we skew negative, it was asterisks of concern.
Asterisks of concern.
Yeah, we don't even throw negative words in there, James.
No.
Even when we go a little more negative than we
there's still a fraction of hope when we do it that way. So.
Yes, fractions of concern, all that good stuff. So the question is, do you look at Cameron Calhoun, who, again, I have to, I guess, give him a little bit of kudos for admitting that he was getting offered double the NIL money that he was getting from Utah, from other programs. Now, I don't know if this was the only one that gave it to him, but he is now going to Alabama. He gone. Which, you look at that and, you could take the negative out of that. What I choose to do instead, and this is not official, I don't know, James, again, this stuff is minute by minute, so any updates that you can give me, please feel free to correct me on air. I am always somebody that is happy to admit when he's either wrong or ill-informed, or I'm happy to admit my ignorance. But as of right now, I don't know for sure that Dorian Singer is going to return. But I am focusing more on that, as he has hinted at interest. That's what we have. We have, we have fractions of concern. We have points of positivity, and we also have hinting at return. Again, I don't know that it's official, but he has hinted at the fact that this was a quote from Bartle: Utah should do the same against Arizona, and how they managed Dorian Singer's freshman season. Total negligence by the Wildcats. His tweet caught the attention of the talented receiver, who seemingly echoed his sentiment in a quote post that simply had 5 sets of emoji exclamation points, which in turn prompted a mass of Utah fans in the replies expressing their excitement at the possibility of another year becoming a reality. And this goes back, James, and you can push back. Again, I always encourage anybody. One of the things that I find the most attractive in my friendships is when people can make me think. So I don't like me to just say something that I think and that person to agree with me. It's not that I always want to be disagreed with. It's that I want to think in a different way.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong here, and I could be putting, as they used to say when I was in high school, 10 on the 2, which is to exaggerate or to read more into something than you need to. But there was something big about Isaac Wilson coming back for me, and that was after, again, cannot stress this enough. I've probably said it 10 times. This will be the 11th. The fact that it came after a sit-down with offensive coordinator Jason Beck spoke volumes to me. It did, both for what he thought his current situation could be, and also what he thinks his future could be. And to me, the fact that Dorian Singer, I would say, James, unarguably their best wide receiver, is at least hinting at a potential return to Utah, seems to me, in what has been a year both on the field in terms of wins and losses for the Utah Utes, and then also the offseason. Because even if you think that these changes, James, are good for the Utah program, change is still change. And I don't know what percentage of the people that you've come across in life, James, but most of the people that I've come across in my life don't like change. Change is a difficult thing for them. So even if you think these are positive changes for the Utah Utes, it's still been an off season of change. But it shows me that they're going in the right direction with that change, because the Isaac Wilson return was an absolute shock to me. And the fact that Dorian Singer might be coming back, to me, says that it's smelling all roses of what they're doing with what I joked about Utah's offense becoming New Mexico West.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you there. The other thing that maybe you're not aware of, but Devin Dampier is Dorian Singer's half brother. I think that is probably carrying a lot of weight. OC, before he left on his vacation and a bit of a work trip, his cruise that he's on, he was wondering if Dorian Singer had a good experience in his 1 year at Utah so far, because if he did, that what he has to say to Devin Dampier, his brother, would probably hold a lot of weight as to whether or not Devin would transfer in. Now we've seen Devin is committing to transfer here, so that makes you feel like, okay, well, Dorian probably had some good things to say about his year in Utah, despite how unfortunate it went record-wise and really production-wise for him. He was expected to do a whole lot more with Cam Rising under center than what he did with the other quarterbacks that actually played this year. So you got to think that he must have had something positive to say about his experience, or a lot of positive things to say about his experience, which would tell me that I would feel pretty good about him coming back. I would, because he's got his brother here that will be his quarterback more than likely if he does decide to come back. And if he's able to get the eligibility waiver, I think he's going to have to get some kind of waiver from the NCAA. And, I mean, the fact that Devin is transferring in, his OC is here too, and that's probably holding the most weight, but you got to think that means that Dorian had some good things to say about the program despite how badly it went on the field.
Yeah, I hate to be in again, I try to be as positive as possible. Here's where I would be a little bit negative. I shouldn't say negative. This is where I become a little bit skeptical. I don't know how much weight that held, which is why I guess I'm reacting to it a little bit more than you or, say, OC before he left, thinking about that. I don't know how much weight that carried. I'm sure it didn't hurt one way or the other. So if Singer looked at his time here and said it was terrible, his program's in ruins, it's in shambles, it's a disaster, you shouldn't come here, sure. But in terms of what they actually choose to do with their future, I feel like they all individually choose that. So, again, you got one cornerback, Cameron Calhoun, leaving, going to Alabama. Now, the good news is you have a DB coming in, which is a big-time talent in Blake Cotton. He is now committed to Utah. And then you have a wide receiver leaving in Micah Pittman, who I think only had so high of a ceiling, in my opinion. And then you have a much more important piece, in my opinion, in Dorian Singer hinting at returning. So that's kind of where you're at, and I kind of want to know where you are at as a Ute fan listening to this. Are you living and dying by every person that could potentially be coming in or leaving, or are you just more of a person that's like, I'll worry about this later in the year? Because, James, with no NFL team, with the Jazz, and we'll get to that, a little bit of that with Gordy and a bunch of other stuff, I do wonder, no MLB team yet. I'll put a yet on that because I do think they will be one of the two teams when they expand to 32. And you have hockey for the first year. That's going to take some warming up to do, and I'll get to my time at the Utah
Chargers. Timeout, Cincinnati. They have one left, 26 seconds. Chargers have brought the big people in.
365.
when you started saying that about looking for the receivers, I thought you were going to go a different way. Charger fans are used to something else. What you kind of wink and say, chargering, where they had a game and they blew it over and over. And this is a chance for them to reverse it, a game they were blowing, to come back and escape with a win at the last minute.
No question about it. And I tell you, for McConkey, he's been in those moments. He's been there. It's the reason you draft guys out of Georgia, out of Alabama, out of Ohio State, Michigan, whatever you want to talk about, the great programs out there, because they have faced that pressure. Even though they're as young as McConkey is, he has faced that pressure in the biggest moments of his career, and now all they can do is sit and watch on the Bengals sideline.
Matlock, the fullback, in front of J.K. Dobbins, runs left, Dobbins takes off, Dobbins inside the 10, Dobbins to the end zone, in for the touchdown, and the Chargers take the lead.
The first time. A bunch of other stuff that's going on. Thursday Night Football, for those of you in fantasy playoffs, which for the most part people don't give two hoots about. But I've got a conundrum, James. I don't know whether or not to start Denver's defense. The Chargers, led by Jim Harbaugh, don't turn the ball over a ton. So it's kind of a blah offense to go against when you're starting the defense. So that's the only reason why I have any interest in that game. I don't even know what the line is. I think they're both fighting for playoff berths. Neither are going the Chiefs already clinched the West. And the Chiefs, by the way, the second you think they're down, or, you know, Mahomes has his high ankle sprain, and you're like, oh, there might be a clink in the armor. No. Mahomes has participated and passed all the tests in full over the past couple of days for practice. And he played on a high ankle sprain in the Super Bowl. I think he did it a couple of years prior to that. Now, he was very hobbled against the Buccaneers, but he was also going up against Tom Brady, who some people, not me, consider to be the greatest quarterback of all time. I would still say Joe Montana. I'm going to hold on to that, despite the fact that Tom Brady has 7, and Montana only has 4. But he passed all that. And then, of course, the news comes out today, James. Hollywood Brown expected to be cleared and ready to return for the end of the year going into the playoffs.
Yeah,
so
just what the back-to-back Super Bowl champions needed. 3-time Super Bowl champions the last 5 years. Just what they needed.
It's
more reinforcements when they only have 1 loss.
It is
and have looked kind of shaky offensively.
I know.
Just more offensive reinforcements. Hey, here you go.
I know. They said, barring any setbacks, wide receiver Hollywood Brown.
Good for them, I suppose, and good for Bill Riley, the resident Kansas City Chiefs fan around here.
Oh, does Bill Riley like the Chiefs?
Oh, Bill's from the Kansas City area. He grew up. Okay. He grew up originally from there. That's fine. He's a big Royals and Chiefs fan.
Yeah. Well, look, if you've been rooting for them for the past even decade, I'm okay with it because, like, I'm a Dolphins fan. If the Dolphins ever win the Super Bowl, which God please let that be in my lifetime, nobody can call me a front runner because I've been rooting for the Dolphins since Dan Marino, who's known as like the greatest NFL player to never win a title. Yeah. So I don't want to hear anybody tell me anything about being a front runner. So if he's been a fan for a long time, then that's fine.
Bill had talked. He always talked about he was born a year after their up to pre Patrick Mahomes, their only Super Bowl championship back in 1970 or whenever it was. Yeah. So he was born a year after, so he had never seen one in his lifetime until recently. Yeah, so he's been in it for the long haul, and it's crazy to think as good as the Dolphins were in the 70s and in many of those Dan Marino years, it's crazy to think it's been about that long since the Dolphins won their last Super Bowl. So,
Well, what I like to hold on to is only undefeated season ever. That's all I got.
There you go.
I ride that until the wheels fall off. All right, coming up, bottom of the hour, we have the one, the only, Gordy Chiesa. And we will talk about Jazz basketball. We will talk about the NBA at large. I actually, since we have a full hour with him, James, I want to know a little bit more about his backstory and just exactly how he got to the place where he got, what he learned along the way. He is a treasure trove of knowledge and information. I just like his voice, to be honest with you, James. He could read. Do you ever hear? You should pull this up in the break or anytime you get a second, James. Pull up Vince Scully reading off a grocery list. It's unbelievable.
I have heard that, but it's been a while. Yeah, that is so good.
I'm going to compare Gordy to Vin Scully because I could listen to Gordy read me off a laundry list, a grocery list, all that good stuff, and I would be entertained and happy as a clam.
And break down the merits of each type of grocery item too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like you would a basketball player. I can picture it now. That'd be incredible.
Absolutely. You can call on in 877-353-0700. You can also text in on the Dish Pros text line 877-353-0700. And the poll, as we always have the opening segment related to youth football, and I'm just curious, guys are coming in, guys are coming out, cornerbacks, wide receivers. Do you keep up with all the Utah transfer news? Your options are yes, got to stay informed, or no, let me know when the roster's set. So at ESPN 700 on Twitter, I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. Coming up next, the one, the only, Gordy Chiesa. We'll talk NBA, much, much more. I want to get to know a little bit more about his history and just to where he got to, where he is today. We'll do that next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, filling in right here. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
The turnaround continues. The rejuvenated Bucks, 13-3 in their last 16 games, win the second annual NBA Cup. A dominant second half. And Giannis Antetokounmpo hugging his brother and leading the way for Milwaukee. What an impressive performance, RJ.
It was so impressive, and it's really just their season got off to a slow start. The cup game started. They raised their level, their defense, their offense. It really all started to come together. For me, what's most impressive is that they're playing against a great OKC team. They've been 4-8 against teams over 500. So this, to me, was their biggest challenge of the season to determine whether or not they are back. And well, in my opinion, the Bucks are back.
Okay. I pride myself on being positive, Pete. Glass half full, all that good stuff. But you got to give me a break here. We'll get to that in a second. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 792.1 FM. We are out here, 529 9th Ave, 7300 South Midvale, Utah. You can call 801-819-7300. Go to the website, www.theroadhome.org/donate. Come in person to the Connie Crosbill Family Resource Center. And if you're listening out there or you need or you know somebody that's in need of shelter tonight, please call 801-990-9999. Again, 801-990-9999. The team will direct you to where you can get out of the cold. Thankfully, we're in a tent, and it's warm in here. I don't really see the heaters in here, Gordy, and we'll get to Gordy Chiesa here in just a second. Again, you can vote on the poll that we put up today, which is basically, do you help with yes, got to stay informed. No, let me know when rosters are set at ESPN 700 on Twitter. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. I will retweet that in a second. And, of course, you can text in 877-353-0700. It is an absolute honor to be joined by the one, the only, Gordy Chiesa. And we have him for an hour today, James. So you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to do, as I like to talk about micro and macro, I want to have some macro conversations with Gordy. But first, I'll just be greeting him with saying hello. Fantastic scarf, sir. How are you?
Zach, I am doing fine. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, and it's a pleasure having you here. So let's start there. What are the roots? What is the origin of Gordy and just how you got into basketball, got to the level that you did in so many different phases of basketball, younger guys, professional guys? What was it that got you into coaching?
Well, a long time ago, growing up in the city, meaning Union City, New Jersey, that's right across from Hudson River, basketball was a huge part of everyone's existence. I went to a Catholic high school that basketball was absolutely important. I go to college, went to small college, division, at that time with Division III. Then you go from there into what's next in your life. And I'm a certified teacher a long, long time ago. As a matter of fact, Zach, you're staring right at a person that majored in history as far as a teacher. And I probably set back the teaching profession probably 100 years when I was asked to talk about the Ming Dynasty when I was a student teacher. However, with that said, I went to, I call it fake grad school. That's, Zach, in grad school, fake grad school is when you're dead broke, you're 23, 24 years old, your car's breaking down, you can't get a date, you're living a weird existence, you're in grad school. And then my alma mater, St. Thomas Aquinas College, which is a national Division II power, hired me as the head coach at age 24. I go from St. Thomas to Dartmouth, from Dartmouth to head coach of Manhattan College, the assistant head coach of Providence in the Big East, and then Frank Layden back in 1989 when he left the Jazz from being the head coach to only being general manager. That's when he called me on the phone to reach out to me. And then Jerry Sloan and I got together, and the rest is history.
So it was just, you didn't know Coach Sloan prior
I did
to
not.
that? It was an introduction from one person to another?
Very much. Obviously I knew Jerry Sloan being a great player and also an excellent coach. But when I got to Utah and Salt Lake City in the airport, Jerry's waiting for me. Hi, I'm Gordon Chiesa. Hi, I'm Jerry Sloan. and then we talked. I remember doing a mini clinic with Jerry in the lobby. Picture this, Jerry and I doing a mini clinic spontaneously in the lobby of the Marriott, where Jerry asked me, how would you teach the matchup press? How would you teach trap defense? How would you get the guys better on perimeter? So it's almost like an interview of me showing Jerry talking about basketball in the lobby of the Marriott. So picture if you're a business person seeing these two lunatics going of footwork as far as how do you teach it.
Now, was Jerry then? Were you sort of in awe? Were you awestruck at all, or were you comfortable with what you could deliver, and that kind of that was showcased to Sloan?
Yeah, no, you're always comfortable because you respect all, but this is the big leagues. You have to produce, and so when you get hired for high major basketball or the NBA or the NFL, there's a level of hopefully expertise that you have, but more importantly, it's the rhythm of coaching. It's the lifestyle of the NBA, of the NFL, where that's the biggest thing you have to adapt to. So I always talk about the coaches all the time. Less is better. So, for example, you and I right now chop it up on the air as far as when you explain things to the players, it's irrelevant how much you know as a coach. It doesn't matter one bit. It's how you can explain it to the team, and then those players can execute what you said to them, but without slowing down their feet and thought process. A lot of times people overtalk, they complicate stuff, so suddenly you're a D-back in coverage, and you're confused what's going on.
Now, how much do you have to change from level to level in terms of not down-talking to players or speaking to them, with more vitriol or anything like that, but how much do you have to adjust to when you're dealing with million-dollar pro athletes versus college kids that are not making any money back in your time?
Well, what you do is, as always, it's human behavior. That you earn their trust. So suddenly, you're coaching John Stockton with the all-time greats, Karl Malone, Mark Eaton, Thurl Bailey. We have a good squad. And Jazz basketball, let's not forget this, Zach, that one time in Jazz basketball, they won 20 straight years to the playoffs. 20 years in a row. The sad part about it, we're never champions. And that's the one thing that all of us involved with, that you're judged at the top of the apex if you're champions. And unfortunately, a guy named Michael Jordan didn't cooperate, and a guy named Scottie Pippen, they refused to cooperate.
Yeah.
So as always, is that it's hard to fake out professional players. They know if you're competent, and they know also if you're sincere about them. Players won't listen to you until you really get to know them personally on a level where they feel that you really want them to do well and that you're trying to help them develop their game. And that's human behavior. So I know this is the era of analytics, metric, the whole thing, and I actually believe in it very much. But it comes down to human behavior. That, when the coach has the presence with their, quote, his guys in his position group or the head coach with the team, they'll listen if they really feel that their best interest is in your eyes and hands.
And we have, another 45 minutes to get into stuff that's taking place on the court, but I do appreciate my time being able to sit down with you and want to pick your brain because, you were, 2 wins away from the absolute apex of the basketball game. So I wonder, how much do you go through the guys that are at the top of the roster? For instance, as Utahians will know, you have Karl Malone and you have John Stockton. How much do you go through them, who then show the example for the guys that are below them, or how much do you coach all the guys the same?
No, the main guys drive the whole thing. Is that if your players, the 2 or 3 top players, they determine what goes on as far as in the locker room, on the bus, on the airplane. And so
you have their ear way more than the middle guys and the bottom guys.
Very much, because when those guys play to win,
they listen.
And that we're very fortunate for many, many years. Let's not forget also, Zach, after Colin John and Jeff Hornacek was tremendous, those guys moved on as far as retirement. The next group of players were very good. Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams, Paul Millsap, Mehmet Okur. The next people forget about those guys, how good they were. And they, and back in 2007, they're in the conference finals also. I mean, so it's in Jazz basketball, it's this innate thing that it does matter to the fans here. Like, it does matter. Wherever I go, people, not talk about yesteryear because that's irrelevant, but more importantly about today, what's happening today, and that how do you bridge the gap between franchises and the different eras and stuff. Like anything else, talent prevails. So the question is, how much talent do you have, and do they play as a collective group?
So I was actually going to ask you this a little bit later, but I'm going to ask you it now. When it comes to Will Hardy, I'm certainly not asking you to say anything disparaging about him, and I certainly think that everybody is well aware and have put into context exactly the, to use Bill Parcells, the groceries that he's been given to deliver the meal that's on the court in terms of the product. But for you, who I know, I saw you at the Suns Jazz game, and I know that you soak all this stuff in. Are there positive things that you're seeing, or is he just dealing with a roster where, unlike what you were talking about, when you have guys like Jeff Hornacek and Karl Malone and John Stockton, maybe he just doesn't have those guys that he can channel through? How do you feel like his message is getting delivered to this Jazz team?
Okay, so the team right now is inexperienced and somewhat under-talented versus who you play against. So again, Zach, just visualize.
Suns game was a great example, right?
Oh, very much.
Yeah.
In that game.
They don't have a Durant or a Booker.
Right, to take over the game. So the Jazz played an excellent game.
Excellent first half.
Where they battled, they fought, they clawed, they bite in a good way. But in the second half, the star players took over, to the Suns' credit, and the Jazz fell slightly short. So in Jazz basketball in the present tense, they have a young foundation, but that young foundation is still learning how to win in the NBA. Here's a foundation: Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Taylor Hendricks is out for the whole season, Johnny Zuzang, Bryce Sensabaugh, Kyle Filipowski, and Walker Kessler. All right, so at those 8 guys, probably, Zach, there'll be 5 of those guys left remaining in
a couple of
years from now. Yeah. So the question is who. We're going to find out. Now, the good part about this is they have a young big guy in Walker Kessler. And a lot of times, I know it's internet chatter, rumor mill, that a lot of teams want Walker Kessler because he's a good young talent. If I'm the Jazz, it's hard to get big guys that are mobile, and that's Kessler. Here's quickly with Kessler. He's averaging 10.5 rebounds a game, 11.2 points per game, 2.8 blocks in 29 minutes. So that's hard to replicate. And so there is some positive things. So 1 is Walker Kessler, 2 is John Collins, and 3 is Keontae George. Now Larry Markin is an all-star, has played well in only some of the games. They need him to get more assertive offensively, especially in the fourth quarter. Zach, if you're a point guard in the NBA, you should never let the star scorer, so let's define the star scorer, that would be Larry Markkinen right now, is that he should not go down the floor in the fourth quarter without touching the ball more than 2 straight possessions. So think about the game against the Suns. That ball came to Durant and to Devin Booker, and those guys made shots but also made plays.
Yep. Sometimes with very good defense played on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, the talent level is the top of the apex. These guys are the best players in the world. Don't you love right now, Zach? We're here outside here, and we're hearing the foghorns outside. This is radio at its best right now.
Yes.
This is gritty grassroots. Come on down.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, much more with Gordy. I think he and I shared a similar perspective in terms of being optimistic about the in-season tournament, the Emirates Cup, if you will. I wonder if he'll share a little bit of my negativity, because I did have one thing that chapped my hide. And again, if you have a question for the coach, the treasurer, Gordy, please text them in 877-353-0700. All you Jazz fans or just basketball fans, if you have any questions for Gordy, text them in or call in 877-353-0700. We will talk to him about the result of the Bucks beating the Thunder in what was a dominant second half for Milwaukee, and then also the way that they're completely revamping the All-Star game. I have no idea yet, because as much as I love Gordy, I don't have his number, so I'm not bothering him with text messages all the time, but I'm very curious to get his thoughts on the different format for the All-Star game as well. We'll do that and much, much more. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Yes, sir. Welcome on back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Coming up, top of the hour, we will have Gordy for another half an hour. I will pick his brain about the new All-Star format, talk to him a little bit more about what's going on around the league. But right now, what I want to ask him about, him and I were simpatico when it came to the in-season tournament. I think that you certainly saw, at least from the players, while they were still in the hunt to get the title, being kind of all in on it. I think you saw a little bit from Phoenix when, despite going 3-1 in the in-tournament play, I think because of some sort of tiebreaker, they did not make it. I believe it was the point differential in terms of their winning. They didn't make it. They seem to be bummed out. The teams that are in it are certainly in it. I think you see older guys really trying hard for the younger guys who are not necessarily making 40 to 50 million. But where I draw the line, Gordy, the confetti dropping down, which is not the Bucks' fault, okay? They didn't control that. That was the NBA. I get it. I think that they had the stands sort of blacked out because I don't know how good of a crowd that they got. You heard some of the Bucks fans towards the end of the game getting excited earlier on. The Thunder fans getting a little bit excited. So I think maybe part of the intrigue. I mean, you got to go all the way to Vegas to attend it if you want to see your favorite team. So let's start with the actual play on the court. The Thunder were the favorites in that game. And then I don't know what in the heck happened in the second half. But what did you make of the competition? It sure seemed like it meant a lot to the alphabet, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard and head coach Doc Rivers versus the Thunder, who I think kind of took their foot off the gas in the second half.
Yeah, very much. The final score is 97-81. Giannis gets 26, 19, triple-double, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. Dame Lillard, Weber State great via Oakland, California. 23 points, 5 for 10 from threes. The Bucks shot 17 for 40 from threes, and it's when they got them in the second half. Their defense was sensational. They held Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's a first-team All-NBA. You can make a narrative, might be
some people saying MVP.
Absolutely. Yeah. They hound and pound him for 8 for 24 shooting. He goes 2 for 9. And he scores 21 hard points. And then also Jalen Williams, the young player from Santa Clara, another major talent, goes 8 for 20. So their defense took over the Bucks in the second half. The last point, they misfired from three-point range. They go 5 for 32, Zach, which is 15.6% from threes.
Like there was a lid on the rim.
You lid on the rim, and that allowed Giannis to get in transition. So the Bucks showed their, 1, talent, and 2, versatility, while the Thunder, it was a one-game, I call it knockout, where they played their worst game of the year. The Bucks are going to try to jumpstart to keep continuing winning, while the Thunder, they got somewhat exposed by when they play against 2 major talents, meaning Giannis and Dame Lillard.
Yep.
They've got to figure out defensively what they want to try to do. The last point about that is that his Utah ties, Zach, there are 2 guys who became very, very happy about their teams. DeLon Wright, University of Utah, from the Bucks, he made $514,970, and Brandon Carlson, also from the Utes of the Loot team, went home with $205,988 in pocket change. So, besides you being very happy to be in Utah for the last few weeks, very happy to be in Las Vegas because that's a lot of money, $15,000.
James, if Gordy and I dominate the ratings over this past hour, am I going to get a $500,000 bonus for that?
We'll work on it. How about that?
So
my point is, for those guys, that is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
For a guy like LeBron, that's a penny in the fountain. But for those younger guys that you just mentioned, that means a lot when they go home.
Oh, very much. So you hear the play, and I'm not being naive, but they donate the money to their favorite charity, and they're
The
very
rich ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also what Giannis talked about it at halftime. There's this player, there's a two-way contract, Lyman Robbins, who's a rookie from Vanderbilt, and he wants to buy his first house. He lives in Iowa. That's where he's from. So the rallying cry at halftime was, "Let's win this game so Lyman Robbins can get a house."
First house.
That's exactly
That's awesome.
right.
Yeah.
And so it sounds so. What's the word? Really?
Yeah.
He really said that? Yes, he did.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Look, I mean, that's what it's all about. It sort of allows you as a fan or, working in the media or whatever, it allows you to have a little bit more of relatability. And instead of looking at guys that are making $50-60 million a year, Gordy, you're looking at guys that are like, I'm going to be able to buy my first house. And, I mean, I haven't bought my first house, but I can relate to that, Gordy.
Yeah, and speaking of contract, all right, so let's put it in context. Here's Giannis' contract this year. $48.7 million next year, 25-26,
Yeah.
54.1,
That's nice.
26-27, 58.4. Are you sitting down?
No.
27-28.
Yeah.
Giannis' contract is $62.7 mil.
Yeah. A little less relatable, Gordy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when Robbins gets $205,000, he gets half of that of being a two-way player.
Yeah.
It's special.
Yeah. No,
Now, you're saying before with the NBA, with the hype of the NBA, you're saying no more confetti. What are you anti-confetti?
I just, look, it wasn't in their control, and I do, as much as I want to point out the negative in that and not agreeing with that sort of celebration and holding the trophy over their head, like, you're not winning a title. It's a in-game tournament that the commissioner has put in to get you millionaires/billionaires to actually be invested in the regular season. I do give them credit, Gordy, for after the game was over, they did not pop the champagne that they were given by the NBA. So I'll give them that, but celebrate it, be happy for the guys who need the money that got the bonuses, but in general, you can't celebrate an in-season tournament, Gordy.
No, you cannot.
Were you happy at the All-Star break if the Jazz had the best record, which I'm sure happened a couple of times? No, you're not happy at the All-Star break with the best record. You want the title at the end. So
That's exactly right.
That was
Absolutely. And so Darvin Ham is an assistant with the Milwaukee Bucks. He was the head coach of the Lakers last year. So Darvin Ham and Taurean Prince, who played for the Lakers last year and now plays for the Bucks, those guys now have back-to-back in-season tournaments. The reason why the NBA did this is because of their television partners. We've never seen more fan interest and player game intensity in November and December until they started this tournament. The players have really wanted. The players do want to be successful, and the fans, which are the patrons, as far as the ticket public buying, they also were into it. So again, it's something that they took from Europe as far as the in-season soccer tournament, and it's not perfect. They're going to keep trying to tweak it to make it even better, but I do like it.
Coming up next, 1 hour in the books, 2 more to go. We got Gordy for another half an hour, and I am not going to take that for granted. I am going to take advantage of having this wealth of knowledge alongside me. I will ask him some questions he is not even prepared for. I'm going to try to catch him off guard, but I know he'll have a solid answer for whatever I have for him, and specifically how it's related to the Jazz. I also want to pick his brain on how he feels about the new All-Star game format. Kevin Durant, Gordy, I'm not sure if you saw, not a big fan, but come on in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah, 84047. If you have any questions or phone calls for Gordy, anything you want to ask basketball related or specific to your Jazz, 877-353-0700. We will do that and much, much more in the last half an hour with Gordy, which will lead us into the last half of the show of the Sean O'Connell program. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it. Can call in any questions for Gordy or any thoughts on the poll that we opened up the show with when it comes to the Utah transfer news. Is it 1, yes, got to stay informed, or is it 2, no, let me know when the rosters are set? 877-353-0700 is where you do that, 877-353-0700, or you can vote on the poll at ESPN 700 is the station. And I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. But right now, we are a half an hour in. We got a half an hour to go with the one, the only Gordy Chiesa, one of the treasure troves when it comes to NBA knowledge in general and NBA experience for that matter. I'm not sure. You could put your resume up with a lot of coaches, Gordy. I mean, really just a lifetime of coaching basketball and having seen it up and down. So before we get to the new all-star format, which I am very intrigued by, Kevin Garnett, not so much, I do want to pick your brain. In your time, and you can divulge as much information as you want. You can either give me nothing or you can give me a ton of juicy information as, you know, whatever. You're retired now, so you know, no bridges to burn. But did a GM ever come to you and pick your brain come trade deadline time about, hey, I can get this for that or that for this? And do you think we should change in this particular part of our team, like the front court or the back court, or should we go younger, should we go older? Were you ever asked in terms of the front office and their movements come trade deadline time?
Oh, the answer is absolutely yes.
Yes.
Oh, very much. Yeah,
okay.
Very much. I'm objective. Even like now, I talk to people on the phone often about the management groups and definitely director of pro personnels where they call me and ask me about so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm objective. And what you want to do is, like anything, is that you need talent to win, but that talent has to play as a unit, and that's where human behavior comes in. So most people can judge talent, but can you correctly evaluate behavior? Chemistry. See, I can't explain chemistry. All I know is when you see it, it's positive when you see it, and then you see it also when you don't have it, meaning on the court. And that's what gets so interesting. So
sometimes a guy that's less talented could actually be more valuable for your team based on the way that he fits in.
Zach, that's an understatement. So in jazz basketball, Joe Ingles, when he played for the Jazz, was an excellent player. He was a chemistry guy, absolutely. Mehmet Okur, yesteryear, was a absolutely chemistry guy. Brian Russell, in definitely prehistoric times, back in 25 years ago, was a chemistry guy. And so these are all things, and every good team has guys like that where they fit in. There's a direct correlation with the Minnesota Timberwolves getting better the last 2 years and Mike Conley being there to help Edwards as far as his maturation as far as playing. And so there's certain guys that bring the best out of people, and those are it's underrated. You can't quantify how good they really are.
So I'm with you on that, because throughout and again, I only got to the junior college level, so I'm not nearly trying to speak to the level that you coached in terms of when I played, but I certainly know that I was on teams that were less talented that performed better than teams that were more talented and performed worse. So my question to you is, when that sort of thing happens, does that go GM to Sloan to you? Does that go you and Sloan and the GM sitting together? Do you talk about the pieces where it's like, this guy might be better, but if you can get this guy in a pick, that's actually going to help our team out more?
Oh, very much. And that's every team, though. So no one knows better the league than the coaches. Nobody. Because you
Even
see
more than the players?
Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
Because the coaches
They see it firsthand.
in the big picture, though. See, most players view the world according to them, and that's why they're good.
Of course.
They're the alpha dogs. That's why they're good.
Yep.
I have no problem with that.
Yep.
But coaches view the whole league through different prism, their eyes, and as far as the big picture, and team building, that's what you've got to do. And the better teams get it. So, for example, the Thunder, they get it. They get it. Their star player is pass happy and defensive minded, being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yep.
Giannis is an all around talent. He gets it. The Celts, Jason Tatum. All right,
Well, that
Jaylen
took a
Brown,
minute. That took a minute for them to figure out. Yeah.
and also Peyton Pritchard. So the backup point guard. Now you make a narrative. He could be the sixth man of the year. So Pritchard goes to the Celtics. They drafted him, and so he's a chemistry guy. Sam Hauser, Celtics, a chemistry guy. Kristaps Porzingis on the Celtics now is excelled. Al Horford, 18 years in the league, is a chemistry
Ultimate glue guy.
Very much.
Okay, so let me ask you this because, and again, I want to relate this as much to the listeners who are mainly Jazz fans as possible. It seems like with the teams that you had, right, you had the Rocks in Stockton and Malone, the two major boulders at the top of it. Then you had a guy like Hornacek who you knew what his role was. Russell, you talked about. But it seems like in terms of that, it'd be a little bit easier. When I watch this Jazz team and I watch that first half that they had against the Suns, who's as talented as anybody in the league, it seems like it would be a little bit more difficult for what Danny Ainge in the front office is dealing with now, because you'll see ebbs and flows of talent and pieces where you think they might fit there. It's a lot harder to do it in the current Jazz situation than the Jazz team that you had, where you could go, we could move this guy who's doing really well to bring in more of a role player piece, correct?
Correct, absolutely right. So the Jazz
They're
are still
in a tough spot, right?
Very much. They're still trying to acquire talent, and then chemistry will follow. See, so they're only in the beginning of their foundational pieces. And so the question is always, identifying, right, very much.
Which you have, but then who to move out of those pieces that you've mentioned.
Yeah, very much, yeah. So add to that. So it seems to me Colin Sexton is a guy that's a chemistry guy. So is Jordan Clarkson. Even though they're both offensive-minded, the way they play the game, you get the feeling
they
that
back off a little.
Yeah, and that the players listen to both those guys because Sexton gives it his all. That guy is very good, and Jordan Clarkson, sixth man 3 years ago now of the year in the league. He was injured. You saw the other night when he came back against the Phoenix Suns what he could do. And so I like both those guys. However, you need more.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the way that I look at it and as much as it was frustrating for me to watch in terms of seeing the potential and then seeing why they have the record that they do, is being able to identify who's who, what's what can fit where, who are the star pieces, who are the complementary pieces, who are the role players, is that they're in a spot where kind of any of them can be that, and so that they need to kind of identify it. So when you're in that spot, what do you do day to day? Like whether it's the coaching staff or whether it's the front office, what do you do to identify who should be in what role?
Okay, the roles will involve where as the weeks, months, and years go on, you'll see certain characteristics, and they are, usually speaking, the development of their ball skills, the maturation of them as far as playing defense, and really attempting to what we call it ball contain. And then the third thing, put all the pieces together where, as a collective group, that they're playing as a unit both offensively. Zach, most winning teams, the ball pops on perimeter. Just generally speaking, most losing teams over dribble. Just philosophically, defensively.
In general.
Yeah, in general, really. Yeah. Including the pickup games. Hey, Zach, I bet you've been in pickup games where let's play shirts and skins.
Yeah.
And when you start choosing up sides,
somebody thinks they're better than they are.
You got that right.
Yep.
And they over dribble and they cast these wild jumpers, and you're saying to yourself, really? Really?
Yep.
That's no different in the NBA.
Yeah.
Now, problem in the NBA, the guys are making millions of dollars that do that. again, the better teams.
Yes.
The better teams, I call it share and care. I'm simplifying it.
Yeah.
There's always one outlier. Hey, the Cavaliers, get the feeling they share and care right now.
Yeah. No, and this is why I love you, Gordy, because I've tried to express this to people that don't have as large of a basketball mind as you do, is that sometimes I will pick somebody, like you said, shirts and skins. I will pick somebody that on paper is less talented than another guy, but he will complement the 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 or whatever way better because they will rebound, they will pass, they will play defense. So I want that guy over the guy that everybody think is the hot shot.
That's an understatement. Add to that, oh, by the way, when we win this game, usually 8 baskets, 7 baskets, 8 baskets win.
Yeah.
We'll stay on the court versus what? Lose the game and stay off, God forbid, for another 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's when you get stiff. Oh, by the way, Zach, go down to deli, get some cupcakes and get some juice because then why? You're sitting for another half hour.
Yeah.
It's no different in the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm using a lunchtime basketball,
And that's
but it's
hard,
the truth.
though, right? And that's your job as the coach, is to get that person to buy into that role, because that's a lot easier said than done.
Oh, very
to get
much.
a guy that thinks that he's the alpha to realize, hey, it's better off for me and the team if I'm not the alpha.
Correct.
Yeah,
and that's your best coaching effort. That's management working together and getting these guys. That's the maturity of players.
That's the hardest part of the job, probably, right?
Very much.
I mean, it's easy to teach a good guy to be good. It's probably way harder to teach another guy to play a different role.
Very much.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
And usually speaking, like any sport, once you accept your role, usually your role expands. Versus what? Being defiant in your role,
Of course.
and your role lessens.
And that's where chemistry comes
The
involved.
chemistry,
100%.
very much. And by the way, who's the backup point guard? Because so much of the second unit success of an NBA team is what? The backup point guard, where he's an organizer, he's an encourager.
As long as he owns it.
Right, very much. And that's what it sounds so simple, it becomes hard.
Of course. And that's the hard part about coaching, is getting people to buy into their actual roles. You're listening to the voice of Gordy Chiesa right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down. ESPN 792.1 FM. We are down here at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Ave, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. And we're talking some basketball. I want to pick your brain on the new format. Kevin Durant made his opinions very well stated. I believe the quote is, "I hate it. I absolutely hate it." He wants to go back to East and West. The problem is, Gordy, the reason why the commissioner, who I absolutely tip my cap to in terms of wanting to make the product the best for the fans, is that they didn't try. So now, for the first time, the NBA All-Star Game will feature a mini tournament, 4 teams, 3 games. 2 teams will meet in one semifinal, game 1, and the remaining 2 teams will meet in the other semifinal, game 2. The winning teams from game 1 and game 2 will advance to face each other in the championship, game 3. For each game, the winner will be the first team to surpass or reach 40
points, yeah.
And each team will have 8 players. They'll be named by a TNT NBA analyst. This part I actually kind of like. Everything else I don't really like so much, but there'll be Team Charles, Team Shaq, Team Kenny, and Team
Candace.
Team Candace.
Candace Parker.
What do you make of it? Is it, at this point, are you just throwing pickles against the wall and seeing what sticks, or what?
Yes, you are right now. Exactly. The TV partners of the NBA, meaning TNT, it's an exhibition game, and it's been awful. You can't score in a game 200 points in a pickup game.
As a basketball lover, Gordy, how much was your heart broken last year? That was an abomination.
Yeah, very much.
It was
Which meant
tough
that
to watch. I love basketball, and it was tough to watch for me.
very right. So Zach, most people I would assume turned it off. And so suddenly the sponsors are saying, wait a second, we're not spending X and millions of dollars, and people are not watching the product. And so, again, the Adam Silver, the commissioner, they're trying to make this highly more competitive.
Anything, right?
Yeah, anything. So they're sticking against the wall. Your point is well taken. I call it the old spaghetti trick, and that they're going to try to make it more competitive, and we shall see. So it's a one-year situation. They'll reassess again. I think let's try it. And this year the game's going to be in San Francisco.
Yep.
Chase
the
Center.
Chase Center.
So Golden State is the host team.
Right on the water. Should be a lot of fun. Klay Thompson got his semi-revenge since he parted ways with the Warriors going to the Mavericks. But while I got you here, and I'm sure I'm going to interview you in the future. Oh, yeah, and of course it's not a Gordy interview without a list. But one more question I have for you. I had a guy come down. I was at the beer bar yesterday doing a remote, and he wanted to propose two different things to me. I'm only going to ask you about one. But the three-point line, people are saying that the ratings have gone down because of that. I've heard one proposition, which is not counting the three-pointers until the fourth quarter. I've heard also moving the three-point line back. You as a guy who have gone through all the evolutions of basketball, and there's a lot less. When I was growing up, it was Patrick Ewing, it was Hakeem Olajuwon, it was Charles Barkley, it was Karl Malone, it was Shaq, it was all these guys back to the basket, and paint scoring was very important. What would you do with the three-pointer? Obviously, it totally changed and evolutionized the game, especially with Steph Curry. What would you do about the three-pointer?
Okay. I would move it back to 25 feet, which was the old ABA,
yes.
versus 23-9 at the arc. And
what was the percentage to what?
Well,
Lower
25
than 40,
feet.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very much,
Yep.
yeah. Yep. And also, as always, what happens is it's not the rules, it's the abuse of the rules, where people who really aren't three-point shooters
trying to find their niche, right?
cast threes. Yeah. And so the games are becoming very, very...
you got centers. If you're a center and you don't shoot three now, you're not even considered... Yeah.
Like considered having a game.
Yes, Gordon.
And so, as always, it's the balance of it. Oh, by the way, in the NBA playoffs, the shot of choice in the fourth quarter is mid-range. Mid-range.
When it gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Oh, you got that right. Let's get to the foul line. Let's get into the scoring area of 14 to 17 feet. And here's the reason why. Schematically, I'm not leaving a knockdown shooter. I'm staying at home on him. So there's less three-point shots in playoff games, and the reason why the defense is so ferocious. And so I'm saying is that the better teams usually play defense and they take away the three-point shot. So it's the middle game.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Well, here's what you've all been waiting for. Normally we only make you wait about 10, 15 minutes. Today we made you wait an hour, but it would not be a segment without Gordy's list. What do you got for us?
My list today is Utah Jazz basketball. The most career regular season 40-plus point games in Utah Jazz franchise history by individuals.
Okay.
What are some of the attributes? Range shooting, muscle finishing, 3, mid-range pull-ups, 4, foul shooting accuracy, 5, alpha dog personality, and 6, passing teammates. There's only 11 guys on this list where they scored 40 or more career-wise in games. Okay. Here we go. These players are tied with 40-plus point games with 2. They are Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer, Jeff Malone, and John Drew. They scored 40 points twice in their career. Next group, they did it 3 times. They are Larry Marketing of the Jazz presently and Jordan Clarkson. And with Clarkson, remarkably, Zach, he did it all his 3 40-point games all off the bench. Number 5, his nickname was Dr. Dunkenstein. He scored 40 points or more. Okay. Darryl Griffith. Number 4, his nickname was Spider. He scored 40 or more points in an NBA game with the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell. Yep. Number 3, nickname was Pistol Pete. He did it 40 times, 40 points or more.
Okay.
The second greatest scorer of all time with 40 points or more was the Mailman. He scored 40 points or more in a game 44 times. And the number 1 player in Jazz history scoring 40-plus points more in a game, he did it 49 times, was Adrian Dantley.
Wow.
So Carl did it 44 times, Pistol did it 40, and Adrian Dantley did it 49 times, 40 points or more. Quickly, in the present tense, my instincts tell me that someday Keontae George is going to score 40 points or more in an NBA game.
Okay.
So, range shooting, muscle finishing, mid-range pull-ups, foul shooting accuracy, get to the foul line, alpha dog personality, and you need passing teammates.
Got it.
That's my list today.
Hey, man, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm so happy I got to meet you in person. It was worth coming down here for the 2 weeks to fill in for OC just for that, Gordy, and I appreciate this hour. You always make me smarter about basketball, and I appreciate that. The one, the only Gordy Chiesa, right here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Coming up, bottom of the hour, we'll talk with Lincoln Kennedy. What's going on with the Raiders? Are they tanking for the number 1 pick? Sure seems like it. Will Shedeur go to anybody but the Oakland Raiders? Also, what does he make of the Thursday night football game? And he's a college savant. I mean, he one of the best college offensive linemen for Washington. So we'll talk to him about that and much, much more. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 792.1 FM.
On 2nd and 10, Nix to the end zone. Touchdown. It's Troutman.
That was the Broncos touchdown pass in Sunday's win over the Colts, courtesy of CBS Sports. Spiro Ditas on the call. Broncos face the Chargers tonight at SoFi Stadium on Thursday Night Football. Coverage starts at 6 p.m. right after the drive with Spence Checketts right here on your home of the NFL. ESPN 792.1 coming up in about 15 minutes, depending on how long the big shot Lincoln Kennedy will give me. We will do fifth. Shout out to Dave Chappelle. Fifth. I plead the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. Fun in the 40s or the 50s, depending on when we get to it. That's where I go around the wacky world of sports, have a little fun with the program. It can't be all X's and O's, which is mostly what we'll do with our next guest, the one, the only Lincoln Kennedy. He is a large man. He is a man you don't want to cross, especially if you're in Denver. We played a Denver highlight. If you throw a snowball at Lincoln Kennedy, be prepared to get ran up on in the stands. Luckily, I don't know if he'd call me a friend, but he's at least somebody that would have my back. It's always nice to have a large man to have your back. On Twitter, at LKennedy72. He is Lincoln Kennedy. How are you, sir? How you doing?
Wonderful, brother Zachary. It's good to be with you, man, and thanks for having me. But I gotta say, you're my boy and all, but how dare you bring me on after a Bronco highlight? Talking about a Bronco promo.
Hey, that is a flag on my producer, James Peterson, the program director, back in the ones and twos. If I had seen it, I would have thwarted it, Lincoln Kennedy, but I think what happened there is he was trying to find a way to promote the fact that we have Thursday Night Football on tonight. So he was just looking for a way. Yeah, he could have played a.
I'm familiar with the business like you, so I know there's a time and place to do things, but you also got to be respectful to your guests.
Yeah, boy.
It is not fair game to bring me on after a Bronco highlight when you want to talk about the Broncos and the Chargers. By the way, there's a Raider on the phone. No, it doesn't work like that. You know better.
I understand. In his defense, his only alternative was to play a Charger highlight, and that wouldn't have sat well with you either. So he was kind of caught between a.
You could have just came back with some music, some music that we could bob our heads.
That's true.
That way.
That's true. That's true.
Better than that, man. You're killing
me. That's true. I will send a formal complaint through HR on James. My apologies on his behalf. All right, Link, let's get down to the brass tacks. I'm going to try to make you go viral. Will Antonio be the head coach for the Raiders next year?
I certainly hope so. I think, I call him AP, Antonio Pierce. I call Coach AP. For my sense, AP has done as good of a job as he could have possibly done. Look, every year, every team has a plan. They have a plan of how they want to, attack. New coming into this season that the defense and the special teams are going to be the strength of this team. Offense is just going to have to manage. Now, we weren't talking about the Lights Out Bears or the Ravens of 2000 or anything like that, but we were talking about a solid defensive squad, and we had our fair share of defensive plays this season, and the Raiders' defense has played overall pretty well. Everything needs tweaking. You got to keep in mind the people on the other side of the ball get paid too. So, for that being said, AP I think did as good of a job as he could. He didn't have a quarterback. They figured they give Aiden O'Connell a try. I didn't have a problem with that. They said they were going to rely on the run. I didn't have a problem with that. They thought they had a solid offensive line. I didn't have a problem with that. They didn't. All three of those phases, they didn't. They can't run the ball. They don't have consistency at the quarterback position due to injuries and otherwise. And the offensive line hasn't played well. The offense has been in disarray. That's not totally AP's fault on his first year on the job. So I don't think he should get all the blame. Besides, the 2 point, Zachary, is that you can't keep firing head coaches. You're not catching lightning in a bottle. Some get fortunate, but overall, it takes time to build a program. You can't keep firing people and having to pay people in the back end to hire new people.
Yeah, Lincoln, I want to ask you, somebody who played at a high level in high school and college and the NFL, he seems to me, and this is just from an outside perspective looking in, but he seems to be a guy that is cool and calm, which is something that you want to look towards your head coach. Also, obviously, very intelligent, having played the game at a high level himself. He seems like he checks all the boxes, and there's only, as you talked about, there's only so many things that you can hold against him in terms of the talent that's on the actual field. Do you think that Mark Davis will have that patience after such a horrible year this year?
Well, I can't speak for Mark. I mean, I have a good personal relationship with him, and I've talked to him about it. I've given my 2 cents as I'm giving my sense to your audience and you guys right now.
Yeah.
I don't know where he lands, but I certainly hope that he sees it through. The thing is that when a guy gets a head coaching job for the first time, there are a lot of intangibles they have to manage. It's not like a position coach in college or in the NFL. I mean, he's been both. AP has been both. It's a bigger step. He's got to learn his way. He's got to learn how to manage the game. There are probably tons of things that you and your listeners can pick apart what AP has done wrong with the Raiders. It's all right. It's all part of the learning curve. Yes, the year is lost. Yes, you wish you had it back and wish it was different. But, yeah, you got to give the man another chance.
Talking with Lincoln Kennedy, former offensive lineman, great on Twitter, on X, at LKennedy72. Link, what have you heard? I'm not asking you to be Adam Schefter here, so we can say allegedly, we can say from what I've heard, we can say scuttlebutt. Nobody's going to attach your name to whatever you to whatever you answer my question with. But what have you heard specifically about Shedeur Sanders? I know Dion, his dad, who's obviously Mr. Primetime, Neon Primetime, always kind of in the headlines and on TV and, you know, in the news, saying that possibly he would not prevent his son, who could be the number 1 overall pick, Shedeur, or his teammate Travis Hunter, who plays both ways, if the Jaguars get the first pick. But a lot of what I heard, I would say, Link, up until about a month ago, was that Shedeur wanted to go to Vegas and Dion wanted him to go to Vegas, and that was it, even quite possibly maybe Dion coming along with him. Now, he stated that he wanted to stay in Colorado, and he's been getting recruits, and he's got a bowl game to prepare for. I know this is a long-winded question, Link, but have you heard any scuttlebutt about whether or not the Raiders would want to pick him? There are, you know, there's the guy from Miami, Cam Ward, who also could be a top quarterback for the Raiders. They obviously need help in that area. But what have you heard specifically about whether or not Shedeur and his father Dion would refuse going to New York, and whether or not they're hell-bent on going to Vegas? What have you heard anything Sanders related in terms of the Raiders?
Well, I could preface my answer by saying never in my life did I ever think that I was going to experience what happened with Eli Manning back in the day. And
Yep, refusing to go to San Diego. Yeah.
The possible pick.
Yeah.
With that being said, now because the precedent has been set, I mean, I know John Elway did do it back in his days coming from out of Stanford to play baseball, a little bit different circumstances. But with that being said, there's only so many things you can control. And with that, and what I mean by that, Zachary, is that we got to figure out where the Raiders are going to draft at. Because you can't decide on a pick until you know the draft. Yes, Sanders as well as Cam Ward, and there's a couple other guys might be one of the top picks quarterbacks going through there. I know the Raiders need a quarterback. Most likely they would take him at their first pick, but they don't necessarily know where they're going to pick. So if Shedeur goes to, say, New York at the first pick and Dion doesn't block it, if the Giants get the first pick, and then you have Cam Ward, well, I don't know if Cam Ward has been egregiously or aggressively, recruited somewhat in social media as Sanders has. It is what it is, but you got to figure out where you're going to pick first.
Yeah, and I think either way, right, they're just looking for a franchise guy. You can't, I know in all of your years with football, I'm sure at all levels, but specifically in the NFL, everybody knows the most important, and it was your job to protect the quarterback, so you know how important that position is. So I think certainly, regardless, if they can identify one of those two guys and they're in the area to pick either of them, then the Raiders will be in a much better position. Now, I've never, in all my times, I've done full shows with you, I've done hours with you, I've done half hours with you, I've done small segments like this with you. I don't know that I've ever asked you, can you rank me as a former Oakland Raider great? It pains me that they're Las Vegas Raiders now, but whatever, it is what it is. I don't think I've ever asked you to rank your level of hatred for the three other AFC West teams. So when it comes to the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers, what is the order and the level of hatred for each three?
You're unmeasurable.
All of them?
It's that much to say. I can't stand any of those organizations. I don't give a damn about them.
So you have an equal level of disdain for all three.
All three.
Okay. All right. Well,
recently the Chiefs because they've been winning.
Okay. Well,
I have to play them twice. And you have to deal with hearing about the Chiefs all the time. The students has been the Chiefs.
that is such a perfect answer. I wouldn't have had that answer any differently. Anyways, I do have to ask you about the Chiefs. Do you see them as a team that, as one of my producers played a comeback thing of the movie, not the movie, the HBO show where he's selling some stuff that he's not supposed to. Breaking Bad, and there's a scene where the younger guy goes, he can't keep getting away with this, meaning that he keeps coming close to getting caught but doesn't get caught. And it seems like that's been the Chiefs' year all year long, where they have just, it's been situations where they've never been dominant. They beat a team like the Panthers by 3. They have a missed snap, which you know well, in the Raiders game. They have the blocked field goal in another game. Do you see them as being on the road, as they are going to probably have home field advantage throughout the playoffs? Do you see them on their way to a three-peat, as much as that would, make you sick? Or do you think that eventually the way that they're playing is going to come back to bite them?
Well, look, they've got one loss, and it hasn't come back to bite them yet. The fact is the team is the reigning Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl champion. They're on the verge of possibly chasing for a three-peat. They will get home field advantage. And when you look at the intangibles, it pains me to explain it, but I'll try to make it as easy for your listening audience as possible. You look at the intangibles. One, they find a way to stay with teams no matter what the circumstances are.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the best quarterback in the game right now, who, if he has the ball last and he's down by 7 or less, game's over. Chiefs are going to win. It comes down to that. I don't put it any other way, because we've seen it time and time again. They are the best 2-minute offense team in the National Football League. They can move the ball down the field legitimately on anybody, and they can make their way, whether they need a field goal. They're never really out of it. You haven't seen them have a touchdown disparity and not be able to overcome that. But whether it's a field goal or otherwise, they find a way to put themselves in position to win. And it's one of those things where you look at the Chiefs. If Patrick Mahomes is the last one to have the football, you're probably going to lose. It's just that simple. So I don't see anybody dethroning them yet, because no one has in all the teams they play. So until someone dethrones the champion, you're the champion.
Yeah, as much as it sickens me to say, and I think everybody's got Chief fatigue, you're right. They find a way to win, and I think ultimately if you're a team playing them in the playoffs, you can't allow it to be Patrick Mahomes with the ball with 53 seconds left to go on a timeout or whatever it is. He is the great Lincoln Kennedy on Twitter/X. Follow him. He will make you smarter about football than you are right now at L. Kennedy 72, Raider color commentator. You can find him wherever you can find him. Follow him on Twitter, and you'll be able to catch up with him wherever he goes. Lincoln Kennedy, always appreciate your time, man. You have some wonderful holidays, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Happy holidays to you and your listeners. Be well, brother.
There you go. Lincoln Kennedy, right here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Coming up next, it's a segment we love to do. We call it The Fifth. Fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s, depending on our timing. But we are out here in what I would like to call just a circus, an organized chaos we got going on over here. Tons of stations, tons of people, all in the name of giving back. And in front of me is my guy, Logan Page, president of Rocky Mountain Chevy Dealers. 12th year, the RMCD has supported the Road Home program. We are committed. Logan, tell the people why we're out here and what they can do to help.
Thanks for having us. And like you said, for 12 years running now, the Rocky Mountain Chevy Dealers have acted as a drop location. And so all that culminates with our Chevy truck caravan that just rolled through.
Yeah, it was like a caravan for real. It was about 12 vehicles out there.
Yeah, so every year we try to make it a little bigger. I think we had a dozen trucks this year, which is kind of coincidental with our 12 years of supporting the cause. But it's just an easy way for us to get involved, get our communities involved, get our employees involved, and give something back to the community as well in a time of year where everybody wants to do something.
Yeah, and Logan, tell the people that you got, you're not only a dealership and people that are, trying to help people get vehicles at a good price, but are also giving back. And, just I was out at a dealership and people bringing stuff by. And obviously, especially this time of year when it's cold, believe me, as a guy whose ears stick out, I know what it's like to have cold extremities.
Yeah, no, it is. It's. I think this time of year, people want to do something. They want to feel like they're getting involved and doing their part, and sometimes maybe don't know exactly how to do that, where to go, who to see. And so, for the past month or so, we've opened up all our doors at all of our dealerships to act as drop locations. And like you mentioned, people come in, they bring in gently used hats and gloves and coats and blankets and so forth, or new hygiene products. And then we all have a little internal competition amongst our different dealerships where we all want to see.
Who can give back more?
Yeah, who can come with the fullest truck, right?
Yes,
you want it overflowing when we show up.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, for sure. Once again, just let the people know what they can do, how they can help, and anybody that's out there listening that may need some help.
Yeah. So if you need help, Road Home is your place. If you're struggling with homelessness, if you want to be involved, like I say, our Rocky Mountain Chevy stores from Tooele to Park City, Ogden down to Spanish Fork have all been taking donations, and that all culminates today. So thanks again for having us and being a part of this.
Again, Logan Page, I appreciate watching people put their hands and their arms and their legs where their mouths are. So it's good to see everybody giving back. There you go. Logan Page, President, Rocky Mountain Chevy Dealers. Of course, you can find tons of information on ESPN700sports.com. Coming up next, we go around the wacky world of sports. It is the fifth, fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s, right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Yes, indeedy. Don't be greedy. Help the needy. You can feel it in the air with our comeback music. Welcome on back to the Sean O'Connell Show. It is his guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 792.1 FM. Coming up top of the hour, we will reset the poll, see where everybody's standing on that, James. I have yet to see what the poll results are on whether or not people are living hour to hour on who's coming in and who's leaving the Utah Utes program. So we will touch on that much, much more. I just saw some news on Patrick Mahomes. All you Chief haters will not want to hear what I've got for you. Plus a couple other things. Cat returning to Minnesota after the trade to the Knicks. But right now it is a pleasure to be joined by Christina Huntsman Durham. The Huntsman Family Foundation will be tripling any matches for any donations from the Huntsman Family Foundation and St. Mark's Hospital. She joins me now live and in person. Everybody is out here, James, and I know you have to be back there, and I know otherwise you would be here, but it's nice to see, like I said earlier, everybody putting their arms, their hands, their legs, their minds, their bodies, their souls to where their mouths are in terms of giving back to the people that are in need. And I have Christina live here with me. Christina, how are you? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here, and just tell the people how they can come down here and help out, and just what a good cause we have going on here.
Absolutely. We will be matching every dollar that is given. Homelessness and mental health hits close to our hearts as the Huntsman family. We love partnering with the Road Home. They meet people where they are, and they greet people coming off the streets with love and dignity and a plan to get off the streets and into permanent housing. So we cannot thank the Road Home and their staff and what they do for people. And my dad would tell us, growing up, sometimes their family was one paycheck away from being homeless themselves. We can't judge those that are on the streets. We don't know their backstory, and so the Road Home is here to give them a helping hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it's great to see. There was a caravan of up to about 15 different vehicles that I saw. People going out, people coming in. Of course, people can call in 801-819-7300. They can go online, www.theroadhome.org/donate. You can come in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. Again, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. One more time, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale in Utah. Again, just tell them, donation will be tripled by matches.
Yeah, your dollars are matched. So
One is
thank
three.
You to the listeners.
Yes.
And we live in an amazing community, and all the partnerships, everyone makes a difference.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, thank you so much for having us. I see some lunch that I probably won't be able to indulge in until about 2 p.m. when Spence takes over for the drive. But, it's been great. And everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy to give back, and especially in this time, right, when it's the holidays, which is always tough for even a regular family, let alone a family that's in need. But then also with the cold, I got ears that stick out. Christina, my ears stick out. They get cold, so we need some beanies. We need some ear muffs. Yes, the headphones help. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for coming on by. So, again, you can, look, if nothing else, just go to www. It's very easy. You can probably remember it. Don't text and drive, but just remember it. Or if you're not driving, then put it into your phone, theroadhome.org/donate. And, again, it will be tripled with the help from the Huntsman Family Foundation and St. Mark's Hospital.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on by. All right, so we'll just do a little smidge of fun in the 40s, and I guess it's just kind of me. James, I'm kind of a weird guy, as you've learned over time, James, and there's certain people that I'm like all in on and then certain people that I'm all out on. And I don't know if you know the story about Jimmy Butler. I've said on these airwaves as I've had a little bit of freedom with sometimes you not producing, so you might not be listening to what I'm doing on your airwaves. And then with OC being gone for a couple of weeks, I sneak in some Suns talk. And I can't wait, and hopefully Jimmy Butler comes over for the Suns player that I like the least on the team in Bradley Beal. I will swap that out tomorrow if I could. But there's certain guys that I'm all in on and certain guys that I'm all out on, and I'm all out on Cat. I am just not a Cat guy. I don't know if you know the story about Jimmy Butler when he was disgruntled with the Timberwolves. and he essentially played with the bench players against all the starters and didn't even shoot a shot and beat them like 11-0 or whatever they played to. Made me love Jimmy Butler 1,000 times more. Made me dislike Karl Anthony Towns as much as I already had, or more than I already had.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. I am not a Karl Anthony Towns guy.
Good.
When they made the trade, that swapped Julius Randle's for Cat.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know who wins this. I don't know who won this trade because neither one of them.
Yeah, I'm not big on Julius either. Yeah,
neither one of them performs when you need them to.
No, agreed. Agreed.
I suppose you can count on Towns a smidgen more, to borrow a word of your words, than Julius Randle, but not much. Like and Gordy always says, who was on with us for an hour today down there, did a great job. He always says he's a losing player. And he says that about other guys too, but Towns is one of his guys that he labels as a losing player, does not have a winning game, and I love Gordy even more for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's probably, James, why that trade was able to be facilitated is probably in part because they're both kind of guys that you would not really want to have in your foxhole, for lack of a better comparison.
I'm not a fan of either of those teams. I'm not in part of that fan base, but for both of those teams that had championship expectations going into the offseason and still this year, I wanted them both to be able to figure out how to trade those guys so that they could, because I wanted them to be able to at least attempt to make that next step. But then when they traded them for each other, I'm like, I don't think either of them got better. Like, I think they're in the same spot.
Yeah, and kind of to this point, James, and I hate to relate everything to what you and I do on a day-to-day basis, but it's the only reference point that we really have. Would you really want me to say something along the lines of, I got a warm feeling entering the Target Center again on Thursday morning? I mean, that's basically the headline from Cat, and I don't know if you're familiar with street lingo, James, but there's a term called catting off, or he's a cat, which is not. But yeah, the compliment is if you're a dog, like he's a dog, right? Okay. Not a cat, or catting off means that you're soft. Anyways, so I just figured I'd throw that in the fun in the 40s / 50s.
I mean, we'll be watching tonight because they're two talented teams, and
of course,
it's always interesting when a
guy Knicks
has a
Timberwolves,
revenge game.
Well, I don't think it. See, but here's the thing.
I don't know.
No. You just brought up the best point, James. He doesn't have revenge in him. So even if it was a revenge game, I don't even think he's capable of wrapping his head around what a revenge game would be.
I could see Julius Randle having a little bit. He feels to me like he must have a little more of that dog in him, but not enough of one.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like I could see there being some vitriol from Julius Randle's side of things that could be interesting to watch. But right. With Towns, it's like, I don't know, he's like a big marshmallow. I don't buy it from him.
Yeah, for sure.
We're on the same page there. And it's not because I don't think he's talented. It's not because I'm not entertained when he is doing his thing. And
he's very talented. It's the mentality.
Hype. It's
It's the mentality. Yeah. It's the mentality, not the actual God-given basketball ability. He's got a ton of that. And I think ultimately the Knicks are a better team after that trade, but you're going to need to have I mean, thankfully they have dogs on that team. They have Jalen Brunson, and they have other guys on that team, which I think are capable of making up for his sort of, whatever you want to call it, lack of mental fortitude, however you want to phrase it.
I mean, Towns did change the game. Just ask him. He went on that
I know.
podcast.
I know.
The game.
I know.
Did you?
Yeah, James, I can send you many links of why I do not have the highest regard for Cat. All right, that'll do it for the first 2 hours of the program. Only one more to go. It's flying by over here as I am live at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. Come on down, make your donations. 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. You can also go online, www.theroadhome.org. Coming up, /donate. www.theroadhome.org/donate. Coming up, final hour of the program. We will revisit the polls, which, again, you can still vote on. They're up there for a good 24 hours, and we only put it up a couple hours ago, so you can go vote. Are you living and dying by every single Utah Ute transfer in, transfer out, or are you just like, you know what, you can go ahead and wake me up when the rosters are set and I can get ready for spring, fall, football, all that good stuff. You can vote at ESPN 700 is the station's handle. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. You can always text in 877-353-0700. And then, of course, at the bottom of the hour, 2 o'clock, we will have The Drive with Spence Checketts. And we're going to be joined by Sam Bruckhaus, NFL data analyst. Looking forward to picking his brain. We have Thursday Night Football, which is, of course, right here on ESPN 792.1 FM. All that coming up next in the final hour. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down. Every once in a while, James, you go from having nothing to talk about to a whole ton to talk about. Some frivolous. We'll get to more important stuff here in a second with my next guest, Rob Hansen from the CHG Healthcare. We'll get to the important stuff in a second, but I had to at least tease what we're going to do after that, which you got my blood boiling, James. You did it like 5 seconds before we come back from commercial break. You hit me with not one, but two, but three, and I think maybe even four. Did Robert Horry play for the Suns? Anyways.
I think it may have been a year or two with the Suns, yeah.
He might have had a cup of coffee with the Suns.
That, but
at least three, one of which is my
titles with the Suns.
One. Well, they don't have any titles. The Suns don't have any titles. Did you just bring that up to make me even more angry?
Maybe a little bit of a troll job there.
Anyways, we have the Hall of Fame nominees announced, so we're going to have a ton to get to and not enough time, which is just, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I guess it's a good thing to have too much to talk about that. So we'll talk about that, plus we will revisit the poll again at ESPN 700. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Go ahead and vote on the polls at ESPN 700. I just retweeted at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. But right now, we are here for a much bigger cause, and people are eating, people are smiling, people are giving back. We got caravans of trucks and vans rolling through, and I am joined right now by Rob Hansen. Rob, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of all this great stuff. I'm seeing people of need showing up. Again, you can come on down 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. And Rob joins me now. Rob, thank you for joining me. And just tell the people how they can help and just what part of this great thing that we have going on down here.
CHG Healthcare is really excited to be part of this great event. We're actually letting people park in our parking lot so they can shuttle to the shelter because they don't have a ton of room here for parking. But yeah, I would just really encourage people to swing by, drop off donations. They're always looking for cold weather stuff, new socks, new underwear, that kind of stuff. It's such a great event. I think we've been supporting it probably the last 6 or 7 years, and it's always a really great time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's good to see people giving back and helping out the less fortunate, especially during this time of year. Like I learned when I got out of the airport, that cold hit you hard. So any blankets, any beanies, any jackets, socks, shoes, all that good stuff, right? Anything that people have.
Yep, absolutely. Swing on by.
Yep, cool. All right, well, there you go. Rob Hansen, CHG Healthcare. Again, a special thank you to CHG Healthcare for their generous support, as there's a lot of people pitching in down here. James, you got the Huntsman family. Again, they're going to be matching your donation up to triple the amount, up to $1 million, I believe. You have Domino's Pizza pitching in, you have Buttered Bake Shop, all that good stuff. All these people coming together. How have you seen it kind of be sort of like a domino effect, where one company comes in and another one steps in as well?
Yeah, I'm not close enough to the day-to-day, but I'm sure the road home sees that as more sponsors and more people get involved, I'm sure things just take off. And certainly the event seems to grow year over year. As I've been involved, the first few times I was involved, there definitely wasn't, as many radio stations and TV stations. Yeah. And, the media
there's like 11 out here.
Yeah. So this is incredible that, the community comes together to help out with such a great, worthwhile cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for stopping on by. Again, you can go online, www.theroadhome.org/donate. You can come in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. Again, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. Also, you can call in 801-819-7300. Thank you so much for stopping by. All right, James, you got me fired up. I don't know if that's your job as the program director or the producer of the show, but you got me fired up. You threw some names at me. I don't care about the first three names. Now, it's probably what the listeners, and that's my job, correct? My job is to serve the listeners out there, James?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We live for our listeners to serve you and the homeless today with the Road Home Mediathon.
Okay, to make Steve happy, to make you happy, to probably make OC
So
happy.
I gotta know what are you fired up about this list? I know the first three seem like no-brainers.
No, but I mean that's what I assume that's what the listeners are going to care about. So I will do my job as a radio host, and I will deliver the three first names. Okay, first of all, anybody that knows me and knows me well enough knows that probably the sport that I watch the most intently, whether it's for fantasy or non-monetary gambling purposes, or just the fact that it's other than Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football and this week's Saturday football, usually it's just once a week. So it's the sport where it's hard to let a game pass here or there like baseball or basketball. So football is probably the sport that I consume the most intently, but at my heart I am a hooper, which is, only 1/100th of the reasons why I love Gordy so much when we're able to have him on and I'm able to get smarter about it. But that was my sport that I played the most, the sport that I love the most. At my heart, that's the sport that I know the most. And so, with all of that, when it comes to basketball, I have to be fully upfront and admit that it's the easiest sport to get into the Hall of Fame because they factor in your middle school career. James,
it's the it's the basketball Hall of Fame. So anybody who played basketball, whether they played just internationally, whether they played just in college, and especially if they were great players at two of those highest levels, college/international and NBA, then you can get in. Yeah.
Oh
or
yeah,
at the Olympic level, you can get in for sure.
There's a ton of football players.
It's not like, sorry to cut you off again. It's not like the Football Hall of Fame. It's they specifically say the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So basically, you have to have been great in the NFL.
In basketball, it's all levels.
You don't have to have been great in the NBA.
The
Hall of Fame. Yeah.
And for an example for football, I mean Scott Mitchell would probably be in the Football Hall of Fame.
It was just football. It wasn't pro football. Right.
Yeah, because he didn't have the greatest NFL career, but he certainly had a much better NFL career than a lot of quarterbacks could say for themselves to go on top of an excellent college career. That would get him in the Football Hall of Fame. So basketball, it's a little bit watered down. So especially with a guy like Carmelo Anthony, who was known, I would say Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and Gary Payton and the other guys that Jordan prevented from getting NBA championships. I would say that Carmelo is not as good as those guys that I just listed, but you combined his national championship with Syracuse under Coach Boeheim and then the longevity of his career in the NBA, though I think he got to the Western Conference Finals with the Nuggets.
Yeah, that was just the one time with the Nuggets.
And Chauncey Billups,
Yeah, they almost upset the Lakers.
The Lakers,
but
yeah,
they did not get to the finals. Yeah.
So anyways.
And he 4 gold medals? So he was.
Yeah, he was.
Like I said, Olympic. What you do in the Olympics matters.
That matters too.
Hall of Fame too.
That factors in as well. And some people think that he's the greatest Olympian of all time. He played the most, and his game was curtailed the most towards Olympic play because it is a little bit different.
Kevin Durant has surpassed.
Kevin Durant.
Or he's tied him in medals, and he's
probably a better player. And also has.
But up until KD, I think this past Olympics when he tied him and then surpassed him in points again, I think there was an argument for Melo.
Yeah. So anyways, Carmelo's at the top of the list. He is a surefire, as I said. If it was just his NBA career, I still think he would be in. A little bit more debatable, but he's a surefire. Yeah. Then you got Dwight Howard. Don't get me started on his off-the-court stuff because, James, I have made it. What is this? If you just count the days that I'm on air, this would be my 9th day. I've made it 9 days without getting myself fired. I don't want to get myself fired today. But if you want to have fun or not fun, in the case of me, I don't have fun reading the details about Dwight Howard's off-the-court stuff. But anyways, he's got some sort of stuff going on. Whatever. To each their own. in terms of his he was Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, multiple times. Led the league in rebounding, James, multiple times. Did make it to the finals with the Magic, who I believe also lost to the Lakers.
That was the same season. Yeah, he and Melo went as far as they did in the career. Same. Well, I guess Dwight won the championship with the Lakers in the Bucks.
Oh, did he? Yeah, I don't count that.
But not as a star player, though. That was 2009. Melo.
But throw Dwight's title out. He had made the finals with the Magic, and they lost to the Lakers. Melo never made the finals.
Yeah, I'm saying it was the same postseason that they both made it as far as they ever made.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So anyways, those guys are shoo-ins, again, with a much graded curve on how easy it is to get into the NBA Hall of Fame. And then Sue Bird, her career has been well documented.
WNBA legend, for sure.
Yeah. The majority of her career in Seattle, correct?
Yes. Well, all of her career in Seattle, yeah.
And she's married to whom?
To Megan Rapinoe.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. The soccer great.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but she also, again, because basketball Hall of Fame, not pro basketball or NBA Hall of Fame, WNBA Hall of Fame, she was part of at least 2 of the 3 consecutive UConn championship teams with Diana Taurasi in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So kind of towards the beginnings of Gino Auriemma's legend at that time. So she was a big part of the establishment of UConn women's basketball too. So she's just a legend at all levels for sure. They've called her the point guard the same way NBA fans call Chris Paul the point guard. She's one of those.
Yeah, except she has championships and CP3 does not.
CP3 does not.
Despite being up 2-0 on the Bucks with Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Not that I'm bitter about that at all, being a Suns fan, which properly leads me to where my blood has gotten boiled. Those 3, ho-hum, they'll get in, no big deal. I don't want to, whatever. They'll all get in. Carmelo, Dwight Howard, Sue Bird, they're all in. Now, here we go. As you put in parentheses on the show rundown, as we have technology so you can update that live and in person, Tom Chambers did not know this, and flag on me. You can throw, you can't hold it to me. But 10 yards, though,
there
James.
Okay, yeah,
10.
okay. 10, not a 15-yard penalty. 10 yards.
But I should know this because Tom Chambers was one of my favorite growing up, him alongside Kevin Johnson and Charles Barkley. I should know that he was a former running Ute. Is he who's up there? I know Keith Van Horn is up there.
Andre Miller.
Okay, so what is he top 5?
Another NBA player who
is Tom Chambers safely a top 5 former running Ute?
I think you could probably put him in there. The more recent ones than those other 3 late 90s guys, part of those Elite 8 and Final Four teams. Late 90s under Rick Majerus. The other ones you'd consider Andrew Bogut. He was National Player of the Year and number 1 overall pick.
That's the one I was trying to think of,
and then the most recent really good ones, DeLon Wright and Jakob Poeltl, who are still in the NBA.
Okay.
Those are probably the guys, along with Tom Chambers. And
then I feel
some others that are you could consider when you're talking about a top 5. Yeah.
Well, then I feel safe calling Tom Chambers a top 5 running Ute of all time. Will he get in? Yeah, I mean, again, if you're factoring in college and the NBA, he probably will. Now, the reason why I am a Suns fan, for all of you puzzled out there, Zakariah, you're from Cali, you're doing radio in Utah. Why the hell are you a Suns fan? Well, it was the one Charles Barkley, who was listed as 6'6", but was a lot closer to 6'4". I was around 6'4", 6'5" in my hoop career. And while Charles Barkley was the pillar of athleticism when he was with the 76ers, he was not so much with the Suns. And even when he was at Auburn and had a great career, and he was with the Sixers and had a great career with Moses Malone before he came over to the Suns, he had nicknames like the Mound Round of Rebound and a lot of nicknames that kind of pointed fun of him being out of shape. And me, I was not out of shape. I was a skinny white boy. But I didn't have the athleticism, so I learned a lot of my game from – I couldn't watch Michael Jordan and try to replicate that, but I could watch Chuck go to work and say, hey, I can do that. You know, I'm slow and I can't jump, but I can do what Chuck's doing. So that's the reason why I was a Suns fan as a young kid. And then as I got older, you know, I stuck with him, and my second favorite Sun of all time. You might think Steve Nash. You might think Kevin Johnson. You might think Dan Marley. You might think Tom Chambers, who's up there. You might think Devin Booker. You might think Kevin Durant now. No. Second favorite Sun of all time, Shawn Marion. And he had a very interesting career. He was one of those guys, as we were talking with Gordy James, I don't know how much you were taking notes, but anytime Gordy's over the airwaves, you should be, if you want to be smarter about basketball. We talked about how hard it is, and specifically for him as a coach, to get players who think that they're better than they are, or maybe in some cases are deserving of having a larger role on a team, getting them to buy in to take a lesser role for the betterment of the team. That's a very hard thing to do, not only as a player to accept that, where you know how much talent you have and how much you can bring to the court, but you are willing to take a lesser role so that the team's better, but also as a coach to get players to buy into that. Shawn Marion, one of the best nicknames in all of sports, by the way, James, the Matrix. He was the embodiment of that. He played defense. He passed the ball. He rebounded. He scored. He was an underrated scorer, but a large part of why his career average in points was not as high as it could be, and he did win a championship with the Mavericks. Salute to him. Wish it was with the Suns. For all you kids out there that want to Google and go down the rabbit hole of if you think sports are fixed, they were quite literally fixed with Tim Donaghy, who went to prison and wrote a book and robbed my sons betting on over-unders or whatever it was in Spurs games. Just deplorable and disgusting. I don't even want to think, James, the amount of energy and time I spent into games that I did not know were being completely fixed by a degenerate gambler. But Shawn Marion, a very interesting, in my opinion, case of the NBA Hall of Fame. He, of course, got drafted in the first round. I remember, James, and I'm not a huge draft guy. I'm not like that into college basketball. I will be honest that outside of the Cal Bears and the Running Utes, now that I'm doing broadcasting here in Salt Lake and March Madness, I'm not your Dickie V. You know what I mean? I'm not your Bill Walton, rest in peace, talking about the Conference of Champions with the Pac-12. But I do remember I did some research because I knew we had some pieces on the Suns team. I wanted the Suns to draft Shawn Marion, and I told the story on air that I got him to autograph a portrait that my friend Smitty drew of Shawn Marion dunking over Jermaine O'Neal. He was my favorite Sun. So I hope he gets in. I don't know if he will, but that certainly got my attention. And then this guy is I think will be the ultimate test case, James, of whether or not he should get in. Robert Horry has more rings than anybody. Well, actually, maybe that's not true.
Well,
Russell has 11, right?
Any non-Celtic.
Okay, but Russell has 11.
There's Russell and Havlicek.
But what's he got?
Sam Jones and all those guys have more than 7.
But is Horry only at 7?
7.
Okay, so he's got one more than Jordan. He won them with the Spurs. He won them with the Rockets, and he won them with who else?
The Lakers.
Lakers, that's right.
Yeah,
how could I forget that?
Yeah,
big shot Bob. So we'll see if he gets in, and then another former.
My opinion, real quick, on Robert Horry getting in before Michael Cooper got in last year, I think, as a player.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been like, no, like maybe the greatest role player of all time. Sure, great player, iconic moments for sure as a role player, but not a Hall of Famer. Michael bleeping Cooper's in the league now, though. Like, sure, why not Robert Horry? All due respect. Michael Cooper, another one of the great role players of all time, but come on.
Yeah. No, that's true. And then to round it out before we get to the coaches, and then we go to break here, you got Penny Hardaway, one of those guys like Grant Hill, like Tracy McGrady, career sort of up in the air in terms of knowing exactly how good they could have been because of injuries. But I think he'll get in, and I think they factor in your coaching too your college coaching career, and now he's a coach at Memphis, so he'll probably get in. And then the coaches, speaking of coaches, Doc Rivers, no doubt, will get in, both what he did for the Atlanta Hawks as a player and then winning a championship with the Celtics. Billy Donovan will get in, back-to-back championships. You don't see that often in the college ranks. He did that with Florida. And then I don't even know who Mark Few is. So
He's Gonzaga coach.
Okay, well, feel free to educate me.
Yeah, so you don't,
will he get in?
You don't know Gonzaga's legendary head coach, Mark Few?
I do. The redhead?
Yeah.
That's Mark Few?
Yes.
Didn't know his name. I could pick him out of a lineup easily. Just didn't know his name.
So
he'll get in.
I think he'll get in. No national championships, but he's done just about everything else and made Gonzaga a national powerhouse, which is before he started coaching there, that would have been unheard of. So I think he'll get in. I think he's got over 700 wins, probably more than that too. So. Yeah, I think all three of those coaches are kind of no-brainers. I don't think Doc is that great of a coach anymore, but you know what?
He's turning things around in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's true, but
they just won the Cup championship, James.
You're right.
I'm kidding.
No,
that's tongue in
cheek. I think of late he's kind of not. He's shown that he doesn't have as much coaching acumen as we thought he did.
I agree. I agree.
With the Celtics, but I think with his longevity and his star power, there's no doubt he's a star as a head coach.
Yeah.
I think he'll get in for sure.
And that's another 10-yarder on me, maybe even 15 for not knowing that Mark Few was his name.
I was making sure. I'm like, man, he's
I know
right now.
I could pick him out of a lineup easily. I know his face. I can picture his. I could, if I were to describe it to a police, if I were to go down to the police station and draw out one of those, I could easily do that. Yeah. I just didn't know his name was Mark Few, and that's a flag on me. But it shows you how little I know about college
basketball.
And
then the team, I think the team's a no doubter. The Redeem team is also a nominee.
I didn't even know that teams could or could not go into the Hall of Fame. So yes,
they do that.
Redeem team will go in.
Olympic teams mostly, and this is the 2008 U.S. Olympic team that got America back on men's basketball back
on track. Yeah, for sure.
Back in the gold medal ranks, and they haven't turned back since.
All right, 2.5 hours in the books, a half hour to go left in the program before we get you to the drive with Spence Checketts again. Come on down in person to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. If you're thinking about replacing your jacket or your shoes or buy some brand new ones, if you'd be so kind, bring them on down to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. You can always call in for your donations, 801-819-7300. Also, go online, www.theroadhome.org/donate. Coming up next, we'll speak with Sam Bruckhaus, NFL data analyst. We'll talk to him about tonight's game and these weekend games. And, as this NFL season is, the playoff picture is sort of beginning to be fully painted and completed. So we'll talk to him and much, much more, and then hopefully some crosstalk with Spence Checketts to end the program. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
10, Dobbins to the end zone, in for the touchdown, and the Chargers take the lead.
Goes tonight on Thursday Night Football. Belfort starts at 6. Here on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 at 92.1 FM, which speak to my next guest, Sam Brookhouse, NFL data analyst, also of Summer Sports. That's Summer Sports with just one M. He joins me now. Sam, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining the program. Now, I hate to put you on the spot, but you being the NFL data analyst that you are, what has the data shown you of what we should expect with two teams? I would say only one of the two surprising. Maybe you're surprised if you thought maybe it would take a minute for Harbaugh to reacclimate to the NFL level, but certainly have a star quarterback in Herbert. The Broncos certainly surprising with the disaster that it was last year in Denver. So what does the data tell you about tonight's game?
The Chargers have been an excellent defensive team all year. The offense has really been the issue, and in particular the running game has been the issue, which is strange for Harbaugh. The Broncos, on the other side, have been defined by their attacking, aggressive, man coverage on defense that pushes people into the space. Now, we know Justin Herbert really likes to avoid those mistakes. I think the key to the game will sit up the quarterback position. Don't make him avoid those mistakes. Typically, he does not get back a lot. We've seen him throw some picks. If we see the Chargers defense taking advantage of him there, I think the Chargers probably win this game. But on the other side, if the Broncos can cause Justin Herbert to do what he hates to do, and that is be ultra aggressive and ultimately turn the ball over, I think the Broncos have a much better probability. I think the turnover battle will decide this game tonight.
Not that this is a personal question at all, Sam, even though it 100% is. I'm winking, but I realize I'm not on TV. I'm on radio. Do you think Denver defense is a strong play? Because San Diego, the L.A. Chargers are not a team that turns the ball over. I believe Herbert, between interceptions and fumbles lost combined, only has 4. So what kind of game do you see this being between high scoring and low scoring? I'd assume that you'd err on the side of low scoring?
That is the side I would err on, and I think here's the play to get Herbert to turn the ball over. They're going to have Pat Surtain and Riley Moss pump up in the wide receiver spaces. We have not seen the wide receivers be able to get separation all year for the Chargers, and Justin Herbert is going to have to make tight, big-time throws. We've seen him do that over his career, but Surtain's a borderline Pro Bowl player. They have guys like Nick Bonito up front who has had an excellent year as well. I think if they're able to pressure Herbert while keeping, separation to a minimum on the defensive backfield, I think that's the recipe for them to get turnovers today.
Speaking with Sam Brookhouse, NFL data analyst, Summer Sports. That's Summer with 1M right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 792.1 FM. Sam, I like to consider myself a combination of things. I speak with athletes, I speak with coaches, I speak with GMs, but I also like looking at the analytics side of it. Now, based on the data that you consume and that you break down, which teams have been surprising on the good end and which teams have been surprising on the bad end just in general in the NFL this year?
We talked a little bit about the Broncos. I think their offensive efficiency and Bo Nix turning into a guy who can limit sacks, they've been one of those. I've also been pretty surprised with the Rams defense. As a team in the aggregate,
they haven't been super fantastic. But where I've been surprised is they made a draft day investment in Jared Verse and Braden Fisk from Florida State. Those guys have turned into Pro Bowlers, and in the case of Verse, a borderline All-Pro. Package that with Kobe Turner, and they have this weird recipe of these guys who transferred up in college, making a massive impact for their defense. And I think the fact that that defense is even, suitable and particularly up front pretty good has been a shock. And I think that's why they're in the playoff hunt, despite losing Aaron Donald and despite being one of the lowest payroll teams on defense in the league.
Interesting that you bring them up because I've been seeing, across not just one guy or two guys or girls, for that matter. I've seen a lot of people saying the Rams not a team that you want to see in the playoffs. Now, part of that is obviously how good Matthew Stafford has been, but you're saying on the defensive end has been surprising to you too. So I'm guessing you would agree that that's not a squad that you want to see come playoff time.
I agree. You look at their defense in the aggregate, and there's holes, and there's certainly a below-average defense. But just what you said, it's not a team you want to see in the playoffs because they have elite players at spots where you need premium players. The wide receiver position, they have one of probably a Hall of Famer in Cooper Kupp alongside Puka Nacua, who is certainly a top 5, top 10 wide receiver in the league. You have Matthew Stafford, who has proven his success over the course of the time in the playoffs. You have Kyron Williams, a very effective tailback. And then, like I said, you have those premium young guys on that defensive front that can cause a lot of issues. I think people are going to be able to attack their secondary, take advantage of some of the talent gaps, on the second and third levels on the defense. But it's really hard when the best positions on the field are those premium positions. The Rams have that right now.
Is there any other bigger anomaly in the NFL, not only this year, but in past years that you can point to in terms of the Chiefs who, on paper, you look at the stats, you look at the data like you do, and it's just hard to explain the record that they have. I mean, they just have, I guess, that winning formula, Sam, where despite the numbers looking like they should be an average team, they're a team that's looking to lock down home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Here's what's funny. I think that the football community, the football, particularly defensive coordinators, have got it in their mind they have to stop Patrick Mahomes from making big plays. Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned that it's an anomaly. Interestingly, their offense is one of the better teams in the league in terms of success rate. And what success rate is basically in the aggregate is, are you doing your job? Are you putting yourself in a better position to score points on a play-by-play basis? They're fifth in the league in that this year. You wouldn't think about that, looking at these slim wins and watching the game and watching Mahomes dink and dunk and them get 4 or 5 yards to carry. But that's actually very successful. The issue typically with teams, they're not able to do that consistently. We've seen the Kansas City Chiefs do that for about 2 years now. That's become their identity, and I think that is why that's going to carry them into the playoffs. So, it's an anomaly when you watch it. It's an anomaly by some of the stats, but you dig deeper into some of these statistics, and you start to see why they're so successful.
Now, I'm not going to hold your name to anything that you say after my question. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire. I encourage people that listen to this program to take everything with a grain of salt. But is there anything in terms of the NFL lines that you see this week that stands out to you and goes, you know what, the data that I've been breaking down, this line seems a little bit off? Anything you like this weekend?
Look, just in general, too, I was talking about it with Lindsey Rhodes, the host of the Summer Sports Show, which you can find on any podcast platform. And I just can't shake it out of my head that the move to Michael Penix for the Falcons will be a good move and perhaps put them back into that NFC South. They're only about a game back. They're really in striking distance of a very hot Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. But they have Drake London. They have Darnell Mooney. They have Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Chris Lindstrom up front. This is an offense designed to be attacking. And I think that the switch to Michael Penix will really increase the odds that something good may happen. Now, that's coming with a risk. He's a rookie quarterback. We have no idea what could realistically happen. But I just can't shake that the Falcons might be a little undervalued right now.
Yeah, he is one of my favorite college athletes to watch. I mean, I obviously love college football, and we're home of the Utes, so I consume a ton of it. But I can't think of another player which was an appointment. I mean, I guess maybe Johnny Football when he was at Texas A&M, but a guy that I watched every Saturday or whatever day he played for Washington, and I'm certainly intrigued to see what he's going to do taking over the Atlanta Falcons football. I will get you out of here on this one. Going into the playoffs, which team do you think is seated a little bit lower than in terms of what you expect their productivity to be in the playoffs, and which team is seated a little higher than you expect their productivity to be in the playoffs?
So as it currently sits, I think the Steelers are a little bit overvalued. They sit there at 10-4. I just don't trust their offense. I haven't trusted it all year. In fact, I think there's periods of times, and we've started to see this get mixed in a little bit more, where Justin Fields may be an answer for that team, given the ability for him to run. If George Pickens is not going to be himself, if he's going to be injured, I think that's really going to limit their offense, because Russ loves to chuck it down the field, and that's really their only option. In terms of someone who, may make a run, I love the Packers. They're currently third in the NFC North, but, man, do they have all the pieces. They have a pretty good offensive line, a fantastic running back, a ascendant quarterback, all kinds of weapons at wide receiver, and then they just got back a rookie, Edgerrin Cooper, at linebacker, who's a real danger. He filled the box score up last week, and I think more pieces in their defense to join their two good safeties, Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney. I think that's a real dark horse to really probably blow some teams out in the playoffs, which could be shocking.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad for your analysis, Sam, but I like that answer a lot. The Packers seem to be a team that can win either in a shootout or in a defensive battle. I like that answer a lot. All right, Sam Bruckhaus, NFL data analyst. Check out his stuff, Summer Sports. That's Summer with one M. Sam, thank you for your time. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
There you go. Happy holidays to you as well. Sam Bruckhaus. Good stuff from him. Yeah, Packers strike me as a team where it's, I could see them winning 45-42, or I could see them winning 20-17. I like that pick. Probably have a lot better odds. I was pretty surprised to see that a lot of the Super Bowl odds, the Lions, I think they're up to like 22 or something. Either one string or two string players that are hurt. They've just been decimated. And then David Montgomery, the knuckles to Jahmyr Gibbs' Sonic, he's out too. So we'll see, man. NFL always seems to be a smidge of a crapshoot. And speaking of the NFL, Chargers hosting the Broncos tonight on Thursday Night Football. It'll be at 6 p.m. right after Spence Checketts, who I'm hoping to have some crosstalk with here coming up in the final segment. And never forget that your home of the NFL is ESPN 700 92.1 FM. ESPN 700 and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. I've been telling you all day. I've been here since about 8:30, 8:45, getting ready for the show. Or 9:30, 9:45, down here at the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South in Midvale, Utah. We encourage you to not only go to our site, but also www.theroadhome.org/donate. You could always call in if that's a better way of doing it, 801-819-7300. Tons of different ways which you can give back, and it's been an absolute pleasure to see all the different people from all these different stations and businesses giving back to the people. Indeed. All right, coming up next, if you are in need of a couple of gift cards to get some fantastic food from, I know it's lemon, but I like to say lemon. When I can't say poke, I have to say poke. So it's either lemon shark poke, James, or lemon shark poke. You can get a gift card to there. I know OC's got his own bowl down there, or 2 tickets to see, not 1, not 2, but 3. 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. They're coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on August 27th. We will be giving away 2 gift cards for Lemon Shark Poke and 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. We'll be doing that. All you got to do is answer a question about a part of the show. So that will encourage you. Now, I'm going to be gone on Friday. OC will be back on Monday, much to many of the listeners' happiness. Maybe some that are going to be sad to see me go. I don't know, James. But the bottom line is, if you want these prizes, you got to listen to the whole show. That means 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I've already got the question. James doesn't even know it yet. I'm going to keep it from him. I'm just going to do it live on air. But if you've been listening to the show, I'm going to ask one single question about the show. You answer it and text in the right answer. You will get the gifts that I just mentioned. Coming up next, we will do that, topical trivia, plus hopefully some crosstalk with the one, the only Spence Checketts. All that coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah, hold it down right here, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Yes, indeed. The comeback music is apropos as we are giving away tickets. Welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 792.1 FM. Coming up top of the hour, the one, the only Spence Checketts, who is right in front of me as we are right here in person. Come on down to the Connie Crosby Family Resource Center, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale, Utah. We are taking donations. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can do it. You can go online, theroadhome.org/donate. You can call 801-819-7300. But right now, it is time for Topical Trivia. We're giving away Le Monde Shark Poke gift cards and 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. They're coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on 8/27 of next year. Here is your question. We had Lincoln Kennedy, the standout offensive lineman, most notably for the Super Bowl participants. Unfortunately, they lost to Gruden when he knew every play that was getting called because the Raiders didn't bother to change their offensive playbook when they got to the Super Bowl and faced John Gruden against the Buccaneers. But I asked him to rank, as he is known as a Raider, I asked him to rank the teams in the AFC West that he loathes the most out of the Chargers and the Chiefs and the Broncos. I asked him to rank them. What was his answer? The first one to give the answer that Lincoln Kennedy gave me, the first one to text in his rankings of the 3 other AFC West teams, 877-353-0700, 877-353-0700, will win those gifts. But now we bring in Spence. Spence, what's going on, man? It is so nice. I asked you because we got about 13 stations and tables out here. So many people coming together for such a great cause. I know you've been doing this for years, but your thoughts on just seeing everybody come together to give back to the ones that need it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. This is my 19th year doing it out here at the Road Home.
Almost 2 decades.
And I'll tell you, we're lucky this year because it's about 50 degrees.
I was going to ask you about that. Where's the heat coming from?
So, and they moved us. We used to do this downtown at the downtown location. That's a little grittier.
Okay.
Shall we say? So we didn't have the tents. We didn't have the heaters. I've got pictures. I was looking through them in my phone today. I was going to send out something on social of me and my old radio partner, Gordon Monson, in like massive
freezing. Yeah,
like ski coats, beanies, scarves, gloves. Yeah. But it's really one of my favorite things that we do all year long, and it's a really great cause because you know the deal, man. Like you hear nonprofit these days, you're like, really? Mm-hmm. Then why are you in the Bahamas 5 times a year?
Exactly.
The money goes to the right places with the Road Home
for sure,
and it's an agency that does the things they should be doing with the donations they receive. And, you'll see a little bit later on, it's a little bit heartbreaking because when people hear, like, folks experiencing homelessness, I guess is how we're saying it these days, as opposed to homeless people, you probably think of, the people you see as you're walking downtown begging you for money. So, and you're questioning what they're going to do with that stuff. And But really what you see is families that have fallen on hard times. I can remember 7 or 8 years ago, and out of respect for the family, I've never revealed the name, but we were at the Road Home downtown, and a couple walked in with 3 kids, and I was like, I know who they are. Mm. And essentially, the father lost his job.
Needed it.
And they didn't, they didn't have like a family to fall back on. Mm. They're both out-of-staters, and they both come from, families that aren't necessarily prevalent, and so they lost their house. They lived out in the Sandy area. They lost their house, and they were just trying to find programs to get the family back on their feet, right? So mom and dad and 3 kids, and so what the Road Home does is mom and dad learn new skills so they can go get jobs. Like the goal here isn't necessarily housing people for a night. They do that. The goal here is to get people back so they can get back on track.
A bridge.
And you know what's interesting? Most people want that. Yeah. They want the opportunity. Now, not all. Some people are probably just like, doing what they can to get by one day at a time. But a lot of people that are in this situation want a track back
Yeah.
to being a part of society, and that's what the road home does. So
Yeah.
it's this time of year where people wondering what they can do to give back to the community, and it's fun just to kind of be a conduit between the road home and people that want to donate.
Yeah, for sure. And, that's the important part, of course, 529 9th Avenue, 7300 South, Midvale. And for the less important stuff, not that it's not important, but people need distractions, and it is your job, our job, to entertain what's coming up on the drive.
So right off the top today, I was thinking about like culture building, because there's a piece in The Athletic today about my New York Football Jets.
Okay.
That Woody Johnson relies on the feedback from teenage sons who play Madden.
Did you see the Judy thing?
Yes. And so they had a trade for Jerry Jeudy from Denver, who, by the way, is awesome.
Yeah.
He's killing it in
crushing
Cleveland
it.
this year with two, soon to be 3 different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And apparently Garrett Wilson wants out, and I love him, and they're stuck with Aaron Rodgers, who's too busy releasing Netflix documentaries where he's just crushing shrooms.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've never had a friend of mine who has come to me with all of his stuff together. It's like, I'm going to go on an adventure and just crush ayahuasca for a week. Any of my friends that have ever done that, I'm like, you know what? You're searching for something, pal.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that when things are
sit
good.
in a house in the dark for 4 days, and then he talked about his bowel movements and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm out on all
And
that.
Aaron Rodgers came from potentially the best culture in pro football in Green Bay, right?
Yep.
And so we have this interesting thing with the Jazz right now.
Culture.
Yeah, well, yes. And so Ryan Smith takes over as the primary owner about 3.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the Millers were applauded for the culture they built in our market with the Utah Jazz, and really winning
culture.
but also treating people well. And look,
Yeah.
no organization does that entirely, but certainly Gale. Larry was a bit more of a bulldog, but we need leaders like Larry Miller in our market. And I don't know that we have any right now because Ryan approaches it differently.
It's interesting.
It's not good or bad; it's different.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm not ready to anoint or dismiss, but
would you say a little more hands off?
I would say a little more clandestine.
Okay.
Not as front-facing and authentic and honest. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes that feel a little bit shady to me.
Yeah.
And, I was watching, the Jazz just released their 50-year documentary.
Mm-hmm.
It's on YouTube. And, they do a lot of the historical stuff, which is awesome. But when they kind of transfer over to the new era of the Jazz, Will Hardy says things like this isn't your grandfather's Utah Jazz. And in my mind, I'm like, well, okay, then who are you?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
or I want it to be.
Sure. I mean, look, and you can't cling to the past, so I understand the necessity of moving forward, and Ryan claims he's modernized the Jazz or whatever. But, okay, so if you're not that, who exactly are you? Because 3.5 years in, there's no clear answer.
Yeah.
Ryan wants to be famous. He wants to, he wants to send out pictures on his Instagram of him playing basketball with Dwayne Wade in the morning.
Of course.
Okay, that's cool. Badass, dude. I'm glad you have famous friends, but I care about the basketball team.
Yeah.
Like, what exactly are we doing here? And there's an interesting thing with Utah football right now as far as the culture Kyle has built and the conversation about whether or not Morgan is simply going to continue that or put his own stamp on it. And it's always been fascinating to me. Because you know this. You've been doing this job for a long time. What does that smell, by the way?
I smelled it too. I just wanted to leave it alone. I'm guessing maybe they're changing out like a porta potty outside or something. I caught the same
Nailed
whiff.
it.
What? It might be an egg salad or something.
Dude, if that lasts, I'm bouncing.
Just so you know, I had been sitting on that for about a minute and a half, but I was letting you cook. I was letting you cook, Spence.
I can't cook very long if I'm dealing with this.
I'm guessing it'll go away.
But I've always, like, for instance, heat culture.
Yeah.
Like, heat
Oh,
culture.
yeah.
Heat culture wasn't a thing until they started winning championships. And, I can understand why people in pro basketball look at it, because Spo is awesome. Pat Riley's the OG.
Yep.
But culture isn't necessarily applauded until you start winning. So which comes first?
Yeah.
So Jazz culture wasn't, really established until John and Carl were drafted.
I think the culture comes first. I mean, you need the players to establish the culture.
Yeah.
But I think the culture molds, like, for instance, you mentioned the Heat, and a lot of people make fun of it, which I kind of poke fun too.
Sure.
But I feel like they have overachievers. Put it like that. I feel like the culture has made those players overachieve, and to the culture actually being something that is tangible than it is the players coming in, whether it was Shaq changing or Dwayne Wade becoming the player that he was. I feel like Pat Riley and the culture is what makes those players better. So if we were doing the chicken and egg thing, I would say the culture comes first.
I'll also add this. You been to South Beach?
Of course.
You know.
Never go with a significant other. By
Well,
the way.
everybody's like, hey, how could LeBron do this? I'm like, I'll tell you how LeBron did this. Born in Akron.
Yep.
High school basketball, Cleveland.
No titles in Cleveland.
But it's not even no titles. Drafted by the Cavs. I promise you the first time LeBron James landed in South Beach, he went, what? People live like this?
Yeah.
It's not the
Culture
lack
shock.
of. He wanted to go live in South Beach, so
Yeah.
the players want to go live there.
Of
And
course.
so I always kind of like heat culture. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the Jazz, once upon a time, did build a culture.
Yeah.
Where in our city we don't have the beach. We have I love Salt Lake. It's not New York, Chicago. We know the deal. But Frank Layden started it. Jerry Sloan continued it.
Yep.
The Miller families allowed it, and they never won a championship. But over the course of like 20 years, they were one of the best organizations in pro basketball. And I'm genuinely curious whether or not we can get back there with this new group. Because I honestly don't know. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just different.
Well, also the unknown. And I will
Right.
say this, just, having been here these past couple of weeks and doing crosstalk with you and listening to you and, me busting your chops a little bit for you kind of ripping into the team or whatever. But this has been ingrained from you since you were a young child. You told that great story about, Chocolate Thunder threatening your dad on the news or whatever. But you're used to winning. You are used to finals appearances. You are used to 20 straight years of making the playoffs. So I think it's totally right for you to go, okay, look, obviously we're making a transition of ownership, but what exactly is going to be the identity? And to just take it a little bit further, what is going to be the culture, and how can we at least see the footprints of where it's going to lead to
Exactly.
that?
Well
It's a fair
said.
question.
Yeah,
So,
and look,
yeah.
finally, I just want to be clear on this, because when you start doing this job, if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be good at it, if you
Gotta
actually
be
want
honest.
to feed your family, you have to
Yeah.
be honest and authentic, and you have to be a little bit agnostic when it comes to teams.
Yep.
But I love the Jazz. I freaking love the
Yeah.
Utah Jazz,
Yeah.
and I always will.
Yeah.
And I just want to see them win. I want to see this fan base who I love. I love Jazz fans. I want to see them rewarded with something they can latch
Smart
on
fans,
to.
for sure.
And I've got buddies who have watched Jazz games every night for years that are like, dude, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a slippery slope
Yeah.
because let's call it how it is. They're not close to being good.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not going to see it immediately, at least show us the blueprint
For sure.
of how you're going to get there.
For
All
sure.
right, stay tuned. That'll do it for me. I will be back tomorrow to close out the week. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. You've been listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.